matter if you're his friend, co-worker, or even a romantic partner. Once you disrespect a Sigma's values or personal code, the connection begins to unravel. Sigmas have an internal compass that doesn't allow them to tolerate certain behaviors, no matter who it's coming from. This isn't about pride or ego, it's about principle. They live by a set of rules that prioritize self-respect, mental peace, and independence. And once you break those rules, it's not just a personal offense, it's a breach of the trust that the Sigma rarely gives in the first place. People often mistake Sigma males as loners or cold-hearted individuals, but in reality, they're some of the most calculated and self-aware people you'll ever meet. Their emotional distance isn't detachment, it's discipline. They've learned through experience and observation that tolerance for toxic behavior is a fast track to chaos. They don't just talk about boundaries, them, with quiet confidence and no need for explanation. So if you find yourself in the company of a Sigma and want to stay there, know this. Respect is not optional. It's the currency of connection in his world. Coming up next, we're diving into the 8 specific things Sigma males will never tolerate from anyone. Stay tuned. Number 1, fake respect and forced politeness. Here's the thing, a Sigma male doesn't need a smile if it's hiding a knife. He doesn't care for polished politeness that conceals a hidden agenda. In fact, he'd rather be hit with the raw truth than be coddled by sugar-coated deception. That's because Sigmas thrive on clarity, not comfort. They operate in a realm where words must carry the weight of truth, not just the melody of charm. In a world addicted to superficial pleasantries and social masks, Sigma males are a rare breed who instinctively detect what's real and what's rehearsed. They're naturally equipped with a sharp BS detector, an almost uncanny ability to read between the lines. Psychology refers to this as high social intelligence, particularly in the form of cognitive empathy. Unlike emotional empathy, which makes one feel others' emotions, cognitive empathy allows a person to understand the motives and intentions behind someone's actions. Sigmas don't just hear what you say, they observe how you say it, watch what you do, and notice whether those two things line up. If your actions contradict your words, he won't confront you with drama or create a scene, he'll simply detach. Quietly, permanently, that's the Sigma way. People pleasers and overcharmers rarely survive long in a Sigma's orbit. Why? Because their constant need for validation and approval disrupts the natural independence that defines a Sigma's world. Sigmas don't care if you like them, they care if you respect them. And respect, in their book, is never handed out for free. It must be earned through integrity and consistency. Courtesy that's just performance doesn't impress them, it irritates them. You can be imperfect, messy, even disagreeable. But as long as you're real, a Sigma will respect you for it. What truly turns a Sigma off is inauthenticity. Fake laughs, forced compliments, manipulative friendliness, these are like static noise to his frequency. He doesn't expect perfection, he expects sincerity. That's why Sigmas are often drawn to people who are unapologetically themselves. Even if you're blunt or rough around the edges, your honesty is refreshing. But once he senses you're wearing a mask, you're already fading into the background. To a Sigma male, authenticity isn't optional. It's the only language he speaks. Number 2, drama and gossip. If you ever want to see a Sigma vanish like Houdini, start talking about what Sarah said about Mike, who cheated on Lisa with Karen. That's the fastest way to lose him, because Sigmas don't do soap operas. They don't get tangled in emotional theatrics or the swirling vortex of gossip that keeps so many people mentally exhausted and emotionally spent. To a Sigma male, drama is the equivalent of junk food for the soul. It's fast, it's tempting, and it provides a short burst of excitement. But in the end, it leaves you sluggish, empty, and spiritually undernourished. Sigmas thrive on peace and clarity. They've learned that feeding off chaos doesn't just kill productivity, it warps your perception and drains your focus. While the average person may find gossip entertaining or even a way to bond socially, Sigmas see it for what it truly is, a distraction from purpose. Research even backs this up. Constant exposure to social drama has been linked to increased stress, anxiety, and even lower self-esteem. Sigmas are wired to protect their inner energy from that nonsense. They know that every minute spent dissecting someone else's messy life is a minute stolen from their own goals, dreams, and mental clarity. These men are builders of ideas, businesses, skills, and personal growth. Their minds are constantly occupied with the question, How can I improve this? Whether it's themselves, their craft, or the world around them, they're locked into a mindset of elevation, not degradation. So if someone brings drama to the table, a Sigma will quietly excuse himself. No confrontation, no explanation, just silence. Because in his world, time is sacred and peace is non-negotiable. You'll never catch a Sigma choosing gossip over growth or pettiness over purpose. If your life runs on chaos, attention-seeking, and who said what to whom, don't expect him to sit through the show. He's already left the theater. Number 3, manipulation, emotional blackmail, guilt trips, passive-aggressive games. These are manipulation tactics often used to gain control in relationships, whether romantic, professional, or social. But try pulling any of that on a Sigma male and you'll quickly find yourself talking to empty space. Sigmas are masters of silent exits. You won't get drama, confrontation, or a long-winded explanation, just their sudden and complete disappearance. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. See, Sigma males are lone wolves by nature. They're not looking to be saved or soothed. They're not clinging to relationships for validation or security. Unlike those who dread solitude, Sigmas actually recharge in it. That's their edge. Emotional manipulation thrives on dependency, on someone needing approval, affection, or reassurance so badly that they'll tolerate mistreatment to keep the peace. But a Sigma, he's already at peace on his own, so if you try to play mind games with him, he simply opts out. No fuss, no warning, just gone. It's not that Sigmas are cold or heartless, quite the opposite. They often care deeply, but their self-worth isn't tied to others' behavior. They've learned that arguing with manipulative people only fuels the fire. Instead of reacting, they remove themselves. This mindset is backed by psychology too. Studies show that emotionally intelligent individuals, those with high self-awareness and self-regulation, are far less likely to be swayed by guilt or gaslighting. Sigma males embody that emotional intelligence. They see through the smokescreen, recognize the patterns, and don't stick around for round 2. What really sets them apart is their ability to detach with dignity. They don't retaliate. They don't try to out-manipulate the manipulator. They just walk away, leaving behind a powerful message: I choose peace over drama. That's their strength. In a world where many are pulled into toxic dynamics out of fear of being alone, the Sigma male's solitude is his superpower. Try to control him, and you'll find he's already 10 steps ahead, moving in silence, unmoved by guilt, and untouchable by games. Number 4, lack of boundaries. Call him cold, call him distant, call him mysterious. But here's the truth. The Sigma male has walls, not fences, and you don't get in unless you're invited. He doesn't build these walls to push people away out of arrogance or superiority. He builds them because solitude is his sanctuary, and peace is a currency he refuses to waste. To outsiders, this might seem harsh, even unfriendly, but what they fail to realize is that the Sigma male isn't interested in small talk, emotional manipulation, or performative relationships. He values depth, honesty, and autonomy, and anyone who threatens that equilibrium is met with the quiet force of his boundaries. He guards his time, energy, and peace like it's sacred. Why? Because it is. In a world that thrives on noise, validation, and overstimulation, the Sigma male retreats inward. Psychological studies show that introverted personality types, particularly those resembling the Sigma archetype, require extended alone time to recharge and function at their best. This isn't some trendy self-care ritual, it's a neurological necessity. When people invade his space without permission, constantly demand his presence, or refuse to acknowledge his need for independence, he doesn't argue or lash out. He disappears, not out of spite, but self-preservation. If you constantly barge into his life, demand attention, overstep limits, or ignore his no, expect to meet his silence. Not the cold shoulder kind of silence, but the kind that comes with doors quietly shutting and locks clicking into place. It's not personal, it's principle. The Sigma male doesn't beg to be understood, he doesn't chase validation, and he certainly doesn't entertain chaos disguised as closeness. His silence is his final answer. Boundaries aren't optional, they're survival. In a world that rarely respects the need for space or individuality, the Sigma male has learned that drawing the line isn't just about protecting himself, it's about preserving his ability to think, create, and live on his own terms. You either respect that, or you find yourself on the other side of his wall, wondering why he vanished without a word. The truth is, he didn't vanish. He simply chose peace over pressure and clarity over confusion. That's not cold, that's controlled. Number 5, neediness and emotional dependency. Let's be honest, Sigma males aren't babysitters for fragile egos. They aren't wired to cater to constant emotional maintenance or the exhausting tug-of-war of neediness. For a Sigma, energy is sacred. Every interaction is a transaction, and when it comes to emotional energy, they don't spend it where there's no return. Clinginess, codependency, or emotional meltdowns over an unread text. That's like trying to plug a USB into a stone wall. It just doesn't connect. Now, don't mistake this for cold-heartedness. Sigma males absolutely care. In fact, when they connect, it's deeply authentic. But their love language isn't constant validation. They thrive in relationships that operate on mutual respect and emotional independence. It's not about being distant. It's about choosing depth over drama. And this mindset is backed by psychological science too. Studies in attachment theory show that secure individuals value autonomy while still forming strong, meaningful bonds. That's exactly the Sigma's lane. Sigma males are deeply drawn to strength, specifically the kind that comes from within. They admire people who are self-reliant, those who carry themselves with quiet confidence and navigate life without needing a spotlight or applause. Resilience is attractive. Emotional maturity is magnetic. If you fall apart every time they need space, or if your world collapses when a text goes unanswered for an hour, they're going to quietly slip away. You see, Sigmas are minimalists when it comes to relationships, not in terms of affection, but in terms of emotional chaos. They don't want a partner who constantly needs to be rescued. They want someone who can hold their own, who can communicate with honesty but not desperation. There's beauty in being real and raw, in expressing yourself authentically. But when that honesty turns into constant emotional neediness, it becomes an expense the Sigma male isn't willing to carry. Their mindset is simple. They're building a peaceful, purposeful life. If your presence brings peace, you're welcome. But if it brings pressure, you'll find yourself watching them walk away silently and without explanation. Because to a Sigma, peace isn't negotiable. Number 6, groupthink and herd mentality. Here's something that rattles a Sigma to his core: blind conformity. To a Sigma male, the idea of following the herd without thought or reason is not just uncomfortable, it's unacceptable. In a world where most people are wired to seek approval, blend in, and follow trends for the sake of social acceptance, the Sigma male operates like a lone wolf who listens to a different frequency altogether. He's not driven by what's popular. He's driven by what's true. While others nod along just to avoid conflict or to gain favor, the Sigma remains unmoved, even if it means standing alone. He questions the system. He interrogates the norms. He challenges the status quo. And if something doesn't sit right with his internal compass, he doesn't just disagree silently. He quietly withdraws and redirects his energy toward a more authentic path. When society says fit in, the Sigma doesn't just ignore it. He pauses and asks, why? That question, simple as it seems, is the bedrock of his individuality. He's not being difficult for the sake of rebellion. He's being honest. Sigmas don't adopt belief systems because they're convenient. They don't jump on bandwagons or follow fashion trends just to look cool. Instead, they filter everything through a rigorous inner lens. If it doesn't resonate with their core values, they simply won't fake it. And this isn't just about being different, it's about being real. This kind of mindset has historical roots. Some of the world's most influential thinkers, inventors, and revolutionaries embodied the Sigma spirit. From Nikola Tesla, who defied mainstream science, to Steve Jobs, who literally coined the slogan, "Think different," these men didn't conform, they transformed. What makes the Sigma male dangerous to the system is not aggression or ego, it's clarity. He sees through the noise, he doesn't crave attention, but his quiet confidence and refusal to bow to trends make him magnetic. In a world of filters and facades, his authenticity is rare and unsettling to many. So when you see someone who stands apart, questions everything, and refuses to follow blindly, you might be witnessing the Sigma at work. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to prove. He just lives the truth, and that alone is enough to shake the world. Number 7, disrespect. Sigmas may be silent, but they're not spineless. Behind that calm exterior lies an iron will and a deeply rooted principle. Respect is non-negotiable. For Sigma males, it's not about ego or dominance, it's about self-worth. They know their value, and they've worked hard to cultivate a sense of identity that doesn't rely on validation from others. That's why respect isn't something they hope for in a relationship, it's the foundation. Without it, there's no trust, no connection, and certainly no reason to stay. You can disagree with a Sigma male. In fact, he welcomes thoughtful debate. Intellectual stimulation is one of the rare things that actually engages him. He's not intimidated by being challenged, he thrives on it. But there's a hard boundary between disagreement and disrespect. The moment someone crosses that invisible line, whether through condescension, manipulation, or outright insult, the switch flips. And here's where Sigma males differ from others. They don't raise their voice. They don't go to war, they simply vanish. This reaction isn't passive-aggressive, it's strategic. Sigmas are highly self-aware and emotionally disciplined. Psychologically, this is known as strategic withdrawal, a conscious decision to remove oneself from toxic environments rather than engaging in destructive behavior. It's not a weakness, it's self-preservation. While others might waste time arguing or seeking closure, a Sigma cuts the cord instantly. Like a shadow dissolving into the night, he exits with no announcement, no drama, and no second chances. Why does he never come back? Because returning would mean compromising his boundaries. Sigmas live by an internal code that values solitude over chaos, peace over ego, and growth over validation. Once disrespected, trust is shattered beyond repair. Studies in social psychology confirm that individuals with high self-respect are less likely to tolerate repeated offenses. And Sigmas are the epitome of that principle. In a world obsessed with noise, Sigma males move with quiet power. They don't need the last word. They don't need to prove a point. Their absence is the message. And those who once took their silence for weakness soon realize they were in the presence of someone who demanded respect without ever having to ask for it. Number 8, control. You want to lose a Sigma, try to own him, micromanage him, tell him who to be, what to wear, how to act, and who to love. You'll lose him in an instant. That's not drama, that's biology. Sigma males are wired for independence. They don't just value freedom, they breathe it. It's as essential to them as air. The moment they sense a leash, they disappear like smoke in the wind. You can't own what refuses to be possessed. Sigmas were born allergic to cages. This isn't just poetic language, it reflects a real psychological pattern rooted in high levels of self-determination and autonomy. Studies on personality types often associate these traits with introverted, non-conforming individuals who are deeply driven by internal goals rather than external validation. They're not trying to be rebellious, they're just built differently. Whether it's a relationship, a job, a social group, or even pressure from family, Sigma males instinctively recoil from anything that feels like control. And here's the thing, Sigmas don't equate love with obedience. They equate love with respect for their space, their mind, and their mission. Tell a Sigma who to be, and you're no longer a partner. You've become a warden. Try to mold him into someone else, and you'll find yourself talking to his back as he walks away. You see, Sigmas seek freedom, not comfort. While others chase security, acceptance, or approval, Sigmas chase purpose and liberty. And if they have to choose between being accepted or being free, they choose freedom. Every time, not out of pride, but out of principle. They know that compromise on core identity is a slow death of the soul. So if you want to lose a Sigma, control him. But if you want to keep one, understand this. He's not looking for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone who won't try to change him. Sigmas live by a silent code. It's not written, it's lived. They don't waste words, they don't fake feelings, they don't tolerate nonsense. And that's what makes them powerful. If you're tired of playing the social game, of tolerating less than you deserve, of being someone you're not, maybe you've got a Sigma inside you waiting to rise. So start setting your boundaries. Walk away from what drains you. Be unapologetically authentic. Because power begins where tolerance ends. Sigmas, if this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and become part of a community that values depth over noise, strength over show, and freedom over fitting in. Let's keep growing. Let's keep rising. Stay safe and stay Sigma. He doesn't seek attention. He doesn't play by their rules. And yet they come for him relentlessly. Why? Because in a world that idolizes conformity, the Sigma male is the anomaly that can't be explained, predicted, or contained. His silence, it disrupts the noise. His solitude, it echoes louder than 1,000 voices. The Sigma doesn't reject society out of rebellion. He simply doesn't need it to define who he is. In biological terms, humans are wired for group behavior, From hunter-gatherer tribes to modern office cubicles, social cohesion has always been a survival tool. But evolution also birthed outliers, those who walked alone, observed more than they spoke, and thought deeper than they reacted. These are the sigmas. They don't compete for alpha dominance or beta acceptance. They exit the hierarchy altogether, and that exit isn't passive. It's powerful, because it reveals a truth many refuse to face. Much of what we call success is actually social theater. Sigma males tear down that stage by refusing to act. In psychological studies, individuals who exhibit high self-determination, those who live by internal values rather than external rewards, tend to unsettle hierarchical structures. Why? Because they're proof that fulfillment doesn't require applause. In corporate settings, the Sigma's refusal to play politics makes him appear threatening to those whose careers thrive on manipulation. In social settings, his calm demeanor is misread as arrogance by people addicted to validation. His stillness forces others to confront their own noise. And so, he is labeled, misunderstood, targeted, but not with open attacks, with subtler weapons, whispers, isolation, reputational sabotage. The world doesn't know what to do with a man who doesn't need it, so it tries to break him. But here's the catch, it can't. Because the Sigma doesn't draw strength from approval, he draws it from purpose. And when your compass is internal, no storm can reroute you. That's the essence of the Sigma male, quiet, unshaken, and untraceable. Not because he's hiding, but because he's free. And in a controlled world, nothing is more dangerous than a free man. Point 1. He can't be guilt-tripped. People often use guilt as a subtle form of manipulation to control others, especially those who have begun to break away from social norms or redefine their priorities. Phrases like, "Why don't you come out anymore?" or "You've changed" may seem harmless, even caring on the surface. But they're frequently rooted in an unspoken expectation. These questions are emotional hooks meant to reel someone back into old patterns of behavior. But guilt only has power over those who are still seeking validation, approval, or belonging. That's where the Sigma male stands apart. He isn't motivated by the need to be liked or accepted. His operating system runs on autonomy and internal truth. While most people crave connection to the point of self-abandonment, the Sigma male chooses integrity over inclusion. He values authenticity over appeasement and boundaries over blind bonding. When he withdraws, it's not out of malice, it's an act of preservation. He knows that time and energy are finite resources, and he's intentional with both. He doesn't owe anyone an explanation for his absence because his identity is not tied to anyone's expectations. And that unsettles people. Psychologically, this dynamic is tied to what social scientists call our tendency to interpret interactions based on relationship dynamics. When a Sigma male shifts or distances himself, others feel a loss of control in that dynamic, and they often react by trying to reassert emotional influence through guilt. But their efforts rarely succeed because the Sigma is already free from the psychological need to be managed by groupthink. That freedom is what gets him labeled as cold or heartless. It's not that he lacks emotion, it's that he doesn't let emotion dictate his decisions. In fact, this kind of emotional sovereignty is something many secretly envy. They may call him distant, but what they really feel is discomfort in the presence of someone who has mastered self-alignment, someone who cannot be guilt-tripped, manipulated, or emotionally coerced. And while society praises conformity masked as connection, the Sigma lives by a different code, one that protects his peace over popularity. He knows who he is. And ironically, it's that unwavering clarity that often draws people in, even as they pretend to push him away. Point 2. He sees through social masks. People often use guilt as a subtle weapon to control others, especially those who have started setting boundaries and walking a different path. You'll hear it in phrases like, "Why don't you come out anymore?" or "You've changed." On the surface, these words may seem like expressions of concern, but they often carry a manipulative undertone, a psychological push to make you feel responsible for someone else's discomfort. This tactic works best on those who are approval seekers, who crave validation, and who are deeply affected by the fear of disappointing others. But the Sigma male isn't built that way. He doesn't measure his worth by how many people he pleases. He's not interested in playing emotional chess with those who can't handle his detachment. He values truth over comfort, clarity over closeness, and purpose over people-pleasing. If he's absent, it's not an oversight, it's intentional. He doesn't explain himself because he doesn't owe anyone a justification for protecting his energy. That silence is his boundary. It's a declaration that he's not available for games or guilt trips. And because society is so conditioned to demand constant availability and emotional conformity, people find his self-containment threatening. They label him cold, arrogant, or heartless. But what they're really feeling is envy. Envy for the freedom he lives with, for the clarity he operates from. According to psychological studies, individuals who set firm boundaries tend to have higher self-esteem and better mental health. The Sigma doesn't isolate out of bitterness. He withdraws to preserve focus, peace, and authenticity. While others are entangled in emotional obligations, he moves through life with purpose and autonomy. This doesn't mean he lacks empathy or connection. It means he refuses to be emotionally manipulated into becoming someone he's not. In a world that thrives on distraction and demands emotional availability, the Sigma's discipline appears radical. But it's not cruelty, it's clarity. His distance isn't rejection, it's redirection. He's not avoiding people, he's choosing himself. And ironically, the more he does this, the more others are drawn to him. Not because he's chasing attention, but because he embodies what so many lack: freedom from guilt, freedom from approval, and the power to live by one's own design. Point 3. He disrupts group hierarchies. Every group, whether it's a corporate team, a school clique, a military unit, or a group of friends at a bar, naturally develops a hierarchy, a leader, followers, and the complex social glue that keeps the pecking order intact. People jostle for position through charm, dominance, loyalty, or influence, but then someone different shows up, the Sigma male. He doesn't play the game, not because he can't, but because he genuinely isn't interested. He doesn't want the crown, the applause, or the authority. That's precisely what makes him so disruptive. Unlike the alpha who commands the spotlight, or the beta who supports the alpha to gain approval, the Sigma exists outside this system. His power lies in his independence, and ironically, that makes others feel unsettled. You see, the human brain is wired to respond to social hierarchies. Studies in evolutionary psychology show that our ancestors survive better in structured tribes, so our modern minds still seek roles and status for a sense of security. When someone like the Sigma doesn't engage in this deeply embedded social contract, it exposes a truth that many aren't ready to face, that much of their confidence is rooted in how others see them. The Sigma doesn't need applause to validate his worth, and in doing so, he inadvertently becomes a mirror. That mirror reflects others' dependency on approval, hierarchy, and status, not by criticizing them, but simply by existing. And that's what creates tension. He doesn't outshine others by being louder or more dominant. He outshines them by being free from the need to impress, to lead, to be liked. That kind of neutrality is threatening in a world addicted to recognition. It's not aggression, it's detachment. And that detachment radiates an authenticity so rare that it challenges the very foundation of most social groups. The Sigma walks into the room and without lifting a finger, without playing anyone's game, he unsettles the entire order, not because he wants to win, but because he doesn't care if there's a game at all. Point 4. Women can't box him in. He's not the nice guy who panders, constantly seeking approval or sacrificing his identity to make others comfortable. He's not the dominant alpha who needs to be in control of every room, posturing to prove power. Instead, he walks a quieter, more powerful path, the Sigma male. The man who doesn't beg for attention and doesn't demand submission. He's the mystery she can't decode, the paradox who's fully present yet emotionally elusive. What makes him so compelling isn't loud behavior or visible dominance. It's his aura of controlled independence. He's stable in his values, but free in his spirit. Unpredictable, not because he's erratic, but because he can't be manipulated or mapped like everyone else. That unpredictability creates tension, an emotional gravity few can resist. Psychology backs this up. Research in interpersonal attraction shows that uncertainty often increases fascination. When something or someone isn't easily defined, the human brain becomes obsessed with solving the puzzle. The Sigma male embodies this. He's not aloof to appear cool. He's selective because his time, energy, and peace are sacred. Some love that about him, drawn to his quiet confidence and self-mastery. Others feel unsettled, even threatened by the fact that he doesn't need validation or approval. But whether they admire him or misunderstand him, no one forgets him. Because while most men orbit around attention, reacting to what the world expects, the Sigma orbits around purpose. Purpose gives him direction, not applause. He's internally motivated, building his life around goals, visions, and values, not people's opinions. That's what makes him rare in a society addicted to image. He knows who he is and doesn't ask for permission to be that man. He's the one she remembers years later, not because he played games or said the perfect words, but because he was unlike anyone else. When he enters a room, it's not noise that announces him, it's presence, a grounded, unshakable sense of self. In a world full of followers and controllers, he's something different, something real, something unforgettable. And that's why he never chases attention, because he knows attention always finds him. Point 5, he refuses to argue emotionally. People bait him, test him, try to spark a reaction, but he won't play their game. The Sigma male moves through social conflict like a chess grandmaster, measured, calm, and always 3 steps ahead. When others raise their voices, hoping to provoke him, his response is surgical. No raised voice, no emotional escalation, no ego-driven comeback. Just pure logic or deliberate silence. And that silence, it's not weakness, it's power. Research in psychology confirms that silence during conflict often shifts control to the quiet party, forcing the aggressor into a state of confusion or self-reflection. Emotionally reactive people can't stand this. They thrive on drama and feed off the chaos of emotional entanglements. When they don't get the reaction they crave, when their outburst meets a wall of calm, they unravel. Why? Because they expect others to respond the way they would. But the Sigma doesn't bend to social expectations. He's not wired to seek validation through conflict or dominance. Instead, he finds strength in mental clarity and inner discipline. His presence is disarming not because he's loud, but because he's unreadable. Neurologically speaking, people are hardwired to seek emotional feedback in social situations. When that feedback is absent, when the Sigma stares back with stillness, it triggers discomfort in those who lack emotional control. They interpret his neutrality as superiority or judgment, and it exposes their own insecurity. Meanwhile, the Sigma male isn't trying to win the interaction. He's simply conserving energy, choosing not to invest in petty battles. It's stoicism in action, a trait deeply rooted in ancient philosophy, where the wise were taught to master their emotions rather than be mastered by them. This kind of discipline isn't common in a world where everyone wants to be heard first, react fastest, and talk loudest. The Sigma flips the script. He listens more than he speaks. He thinks before he moves. And when he does speak, his words cut through noise like a scalpel, precise, purposeful, and impossible to ignore. This is what makes him dangerous to the emotionally chaotic. Not his anger, but his unshakable calm. He's not trying to outshine anyone. He's just not dimming his light to match theirs. Point 6. He's immune to trends. The Sigma doesn't flinch, not because he's arrogant or indifferent, but because his mindset is forged in solitude and self-mastery. In a world obsessed with trends, outrage, and constant validation, the Sigma male stands as a countercurrent. New challenge, new movement, viral opinion. While most rush to react, riposte, or rant, the Sigma remains still, not out of fear, but because his worth isn't measured by his participation in noise. He's not against the world. He's just unaffected by its theatrics. This psychological detachment comes from a place of deep introspection and autonomy. Studies in personality psychology link such traits to high levels of introverted intuition and emotional regulation, skills often honed through intentional solitude and internal focus. The Sigma's silence isn't passive, it's deliberate. He doesn't speak to be seen, he speaks when it matters. Unlike those driven by performative validation, the Sigma only contributes when his words carry weight. And because of that rarity, people listen when he does. His influence doesn't come from volume, but from value. In fact, research shows that those who speak less but with precision are perceived as more competent and intelligent, a phenomenon called the reservoir effect. When everyone else is shouting, trying to go viral, his silence becomes a paradox. It feels like thunder. It commands attention not through aggression, but by contrast. This paradox mirrors ancient Stoic philosophy, which values mastery over one's emotions and reactions. Like Marcus Aurelius, who ruled without seeking applause, the Sigma moves through life with an internal compass, not a need for approval. Entertainment may change, Trends may fade, but the Sigma remains anchored. And in today's chaotic digital battlefield of opinions and outrage, that calm, focused energy is rare and powerful. His silence can provoke more thought than 1,000 viral rants. Because while the world shouts to be noticed, the Sigma simply acts, and in doing so he leaves a mark that's not just louder, but lasting. Point 7, he walks away fully. When he's done, he's done. No guilt, no games, no closure tours. That's the way of the Sigma male, and it unnerves people more than they care to admit. In a society where ghosting is normalized, but closure is still expected, the Sigma male breaks the mold with unapologetic finality. Most people leave cracks in the door, hoping for reconciliation, attention, or some emotional leverage. But the Sigma male, he closes the door, locks it, and tosses away the key without announcing the departure, not out of cruelty, but because he values peace over prolonged drama. Neuroscience backs this up. Studies on emotional regulation have shown that people who are more introspective and less socially dependent, traits often found in Sigma personalities, tend to recover faster from emotional turmoil when they cut ties decisively. The Sigma's detachment isn't emotional coldness, it's emotional efficiency. He doesn't burn bridges out of anger, he deletes the map because he has no intention of walking that route again. This rattles people because it denies them something they're used to. Emotional negotiation. They can't plead, manipulate, or linger in a loop of confusion. The Sigma leaves, and that silence becomes louder than any argument. This level of self-respect and boundary setting often gets misunderstood as arrogance or heartlessness. In reality, it's rooted in clarity. When something or someone no longer aligns with his values, vision, or energy, he exits, not to punish, but to protect. It's not about winning. It's about preserving his path. Society is conditioned to expect loops of dysfunction, breadcrumbing, and emotional gray zones. But the Sigma rewrites the script. His detachment is not an act of revenge, it's an act of evolution. And that's what shakes people to their core. Because deep down, many wish they had the strength to do the same, to walk away without making a scene, to disappear without guilt, to say nothing and still mean everything. Point 8, he creates, not competes. He doesn't measure success by beating others. He measures it by outgrowing himself. In a world obsessed with competition, comparison, and public validation, the Sigma male walks a different path. While others gauge their worth by outperforming peers, flashing their lifestyles on social media, or climbing the ladder faster than the next man, the Sigma male is locked into a more personal, internal mission, becoming better than who he was yesterday. This mindset is rooted in something deeper than ego, it's self-mastery. Psychologists describe this as intrinsic motivation, the drive that comes from within rather than from external rewards. Sigma males embody this. They don't care about applause, timelines, or trending metrics of success. While others broadcast their every move, chasing likes and recognition, the Sigma builds in silence. He's not interested in announcing every step of his progress, because he knows true strength doesn't need to speak. It simply becomes undeniable over time. When he arrives, when his plans finally bloom into visible success, it catches people off guard. Because he wasn't performing for an audience, he was preparing for a purpose. This element of quiet growth often baffles those used to loud ambition. Think of bamboo, which spends years growing underground before it suddenly shoots up feet within weeks. That's the Sigma's way, laying foundations others can't see until it's too late to catch up. Studies on high-performance individuals reveal that delayed gratification and low need for social approval are two critical traits of people who build enduring legacies. And that's exactly what the Sigma male is after. Not a flashy sprint, but a lifelong marathon rooted in discipline, clarity, and inner peace. His success isn't an explosion, it's an unveiling. And by the time the world notices, he's already miles ahead, not because he rushed, but because he refused to compete with noise and chose instead to align with his own growth. That's not just smart, it's rare, it's powerful, and it's very Sigma. They tried to shame him, provoke him, and isolate him, thinking they'd break him. But while the noise surrounded others, he found power in the silence. In the quiet, he built discipline. In the shadows, he sharpened his mind, and while the crowd scrambled for validation, he chased something rarer, truth. The Sigma male is not a product of popularity. He's forged through solitude. Unlike alpha types who thrive on leadership and control, or betas who seek group belonging, Sigmas stand apart. Psychological studies suggest that men with high introversion and self-direction often exhibit Sigma traits, thriving independently, resisting peer pressure, and focusing on internal growth. His strength isn't about overpowering others, but about staying aligned with his purpose. He doesn't seek fame, but his presence changes the room. His legacy isn't loud, but it lasts. In a world desperate for conformity, the Sigma chooses mastery over mimicry. Stay curious, stay Sigma. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. The very energy that surrounds him speaks louder than words ever could. When a Sigma male walks into a room, there's a sudden shift, like the atmosphere tightens, like everyone becomes subtly aware of his presence. He isn't seeking attention, dominance, or approval. In fact, he avoids it. But paradoxically, this only draws more eyes to him. His silence isn't empty, it carries a weight most can't understand. It's the kind of silence that makes people wonder what he's thinking, what he knows, and why they feel slightly unsettled in his presence. This isn't your typical charisma, the charming, talkative energy that pulls people in. This is something colder, deeper, and more instinctive. Psychology refers to it as silent authority, a powerful phenomenon where someone exerts influence without exertion, simply through their aura, body language, and emotional detachment. Sigma males embody this naturally. They observe more than they speak. They think before they act. And their emotional independence makes them immune to the chaos of social drama. People don't know how to categorize them. They're not alphas trying to lead, not betas trying to please. They're outsiders by choice, strategists by nature, and calm in a way that feels almost alien. It's no surprise that this unnerves others. Studies on nonverbal dominance and perceived threat suggest that people can feel uncomfortable when they encounter someone whose presence contradicts social norms, especially someone who doesn't try to fit in or compete. And yet, that same discomfort is laced with fascination. Some admire his mystery, some envy his control, others despise him, though they can't articulate why. The Sigma doesn't chase respect. He doesn't need to. His self-reliance and psychological depth make him impossible to ignore. So today we journey into his world, to uncover the 8 spine-chilling behaviors that define him, disturb others, and remind us that sometimes the loudest power is the quietest man in the room. Welcome to Brain Boosters, where we decode the psychology of the quiet disruptor. Let's begin. Number 1, he cuts emotion like a blade. Most men react, Sigmas calculate. That's the difference between a wildfire and a controlled burn. One rages out of control, the other is strategic, precise, and necessary. When provoked, the Sigma male doesn't flare up in rage or spiral into emotional theatrics. He studies, he processes. His mind shifts into analytical mode, not fight or flight, because for the Sigma, anger is inefficient. It clouds judgment and wastes energy. Panic, even worse. It's messy, unpredictable, and often exploited by others. Emotion to the Sigma is a vulnerability, an exposed wire that people can tamper with. So he learns early to contain it, not suppress it blindly, but manage it with razor-sharp control. Like a dam holding back a flood, his calm demeanor keeps him watertight, sealed against manipulation and chaos. And this, ironically, makes him dangerous in the eyes of those who thrive on emotional reactions. Manipulators and drama addicts feed on attention, on the tug-of-war of emotional escalation. They're used to pushback, loud objections, drawn-out arguments. But the Sigma gives them none of it. He denies them the battle. He doesn't yell, he doesn't plead, he doesn't even argue. Instead, he might disappear without warning, ghosting toxicity without guilt. Or worse, for those seeking validation, he ends the relationship or conflict with one calm, surgical decision. No drawn-out goodbyes, no need for closure, just a clean break, like cutting a cord that no longer serves him. This is where the real impact happens. Because while most people are accustomed to conflict leaving behind noise, a Sigma's silence echoes louder. His refusal to engage, to justify, to return leaves scars. Not from violence or cruelty, but from the quiet void he creates. He doesn't seek revenge or make a scene. He simply moves on. And that can be more psychologically jarring than any shouting match. Studies in psychology have shown that emotional detachment, especially when unexpected, can be more unsettling than confrontation. It leaves the other party with unanswered questions, forced into self-reflection they didn't ask for. This is the Sigma's power, not in domination, but in unshakable control. While the world spins in drama and emotional chaos, the Sigma remains still, deliberate, and almost ghost-like in his movement. That makes him hard to manipulate, hard to decode, and even harder to forget, and that's precisely why his presence and absence leave a lasting mark. Number 2, he's immune to status games. While others measure their value in titles, followers, and fame, the Sigma male quietly walks away from it all, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment with deeper truths. In a world obsessed with recognition, he is a rare breed who finds no need to broadcast his worth. He could be wealthy beyond imagination, powerful beyond comprehension, yet he moves in silence. You won't find him chasing applause or scrambling for likes because his self-worth isn't constructed from external validation. It's built in silence, forged in the fire of solitude, and tested through trials of self-reliance. This is what makes him dangerous, because the very things that society uses to control, tempt, or manipulate others simply don't work on him. You can't lure a man with status when he's already content in isolation. You can't intimidate a man who's not afraid to lose you. Sigma males function outside the traditional hierarchy, not below it or above it, but completely off the grid. They are lone wolves who operate with surgical precision, not because they have something to prove, but because they have nothing to lose. Psychologically, this level of detachment is unsettling to those who are addicted to attention and approval. The Sigma's independence reflects a form of quiet rebellion, a rejection of superficial metrics in favor of internal mastery. Research in behavioral psychology even supports this trait. Studies show that those with high levels of intrinsic motivation tend to be more creative, resilient, and less susceptible to peer pressure. Sigma males embody that principle in full. They aren't antisocial, they're selectively social. They don't hate authority, they just don't need it, and they don't fear being alone, because they've turned solitude into a sanctuary. In the modern era, where digital noise drowns out authenticity, the Sigma male's refusal to play the popularity game is both radical and refreshing. He isn't unreachable, he's just not waiting for validation. You won't find him where everyone else is looking because he's already gone, deep into his purpose, unmoved by trends, untouched by manipulation. While others follow the spotlight, the Sigma is lighting his own fire in the dark. And that, more than anything, is what terrifies people, a man who is ungovernable, unshakable, and utterly free. Number 3, he withdraws without warning, no text, no message, just silence, and he's gone. To most, this sudden disappearance is baffling, what the world now calls ghosting. But for a Sigma male, it's not a game or manipulation tactic, it's preservation. In a world that constantly demands attention, reaction, and emotional labor, the Sigma male has mastered the art of withdrawal. When the energy around him becomes draining, when conversations grow artificial, and when social settings reek of pretense, he doesn't linger to argue or explain. He simply leaves. The Sigma's retreat is not cowardice, it's clarity. He knows that words rarely change those committed to misunderstanding him. He operates on a frequency of authenticity and self-containment, and when that frequency is disrupted, he doesn't seek to repair what's broken. He moves on to preserve what's whole within himself. Psychologically, this behavior ties into the Sigma's unique placement on the social hierarchy, outside of it entirely. Unlike alphas who dominate or betas who follow, Sigmas carve their own path, often preferring solitude over shallow interactions. Research in behavioral science suggests that introverted personalities with high self-awareness are more prone to setting firm emotional boundaries, often through avoidance or withdrawal. The Sigma male exemplifies this by creating invisible lines that, once crossed, signal an immediate disengagement. It's not impulsive, it's calculated. He's highly attuned to emotional shifts and can detect disingenuous behavior quickly. When that happens, the Sigma doesn't confront chaos. He simply chooses peace. This form of detachment often confuses others. People question his silence, misinterpret his distance as arrogance, or label his independence as antisocial behavior. But for the Sigma, understanding isn't the goal. Alignment is. And when that alignment breaks, when the connection becomes a drain rather than a source, he honors the fracture by letting it be final. There's a kind of brutal elegance in the way he disappears. Clean, quiet, complete. no bitterness, no blame, just a calculated withdrawal that leaves others wondering what happened while he walks forward unburdened. Because for the Sigma, the loudest statement he can make is often the one left unsaid. Number 4, he sees through social masks. While most men are easily dazzled by external attributes, beauty, charm, status, or wealth, the Sigma male plays a different game entirely. He isn't led by surface-level appeal or manipulated by what is shown to the world. Instead, he observes. He sees patterns in human behavior that others miss. He notices the micro-shifts in posture, the tension behind a fake smile, and the nervous glance that flickers for just a moment too long. Where others listen to words, the Sigma hears the slight crack in a voice, the urgency behind a calm statement. He doesn't need someone to shout to understand intensity. Silence to him is a language richer than dialogue, filled with hesitation, fear, secrets, and intent. This ability to read people like a book without them ever realizing it is unsettling to many. Most are used to hiding behind charm or distractions, but none of that works on a Sigma. He's attuned to the subtle, the invisible, and the intuitive. According to studies in behavioral psychology and nonverbal communication, over 90% of human interaction is conveyed through body language, facial expression, and vocal tone, not actual words. The Sigma male, whether consciously or through natural disposition, has mastered this unspoken language. This is what makes him dangerous in the eyes of manipulators, liars, and pretenders. They can't deceive someone who sees through the mask before it's even fully worn. But here's the twist: he rarely confronts. There's no grand expose, no explosive call-out. He simply acts based on what he knows. He withdraws, avoids, or navigates around the game being played without ever announcing that he's aware of it. That quiet confidence, that internal knowing without the need for validation, unnerves people. In a world where many scream for attention or validation, the Sigma walks calmly, confidently, seeing through illusions. And that's what makes him so powerful. He's not interested in competing on the same field as everyone else. He's already 10 steps ahead, operating on an entirely different level. Those around him may never understand why they feel uneasy in his presence, but somewhere deep down they sense the truth. This man can see what they've worked so hard to conceal. And that awareness, not of facts, but of unspoken truths, is what makes the Sigma both mysterious and magnetic. Number 5, he respects without needing approval. He'll complement the alpha. He'll defend the beta. But he will not kneel to either. That's the Sigma male in his purest form, an enigmatic, autonomous force who operates outside the conventional social hierarchy. Unlike alphas, who often crave dominance, or betas, who may seek approval, the Sigma male values sovereignty above status. He doesn't measure worth by rank, but by character. He may acknowledge an alpha's leadership skills or a beta's loyalty, but he won't submit to either's influence. His allegiance isn't to power or popularity, it's to principle. Respect, in the Sigma's world, is not something handed out like candy, nor is it extracted through fear or flattery. It's earned through authenticity, integrity, and consistency. And when a Sigma offers respect, it's not casual, it's significant. It means you've passed through his quiet internal filters and earned a place of honor in his mind. But beware, if you cross a line, violate his boundaries, or disrespect his core values, you won't get a lecture or a second chance. There will be no emotional explosion, no dramatic fallout, just silence. He'll vanish like smoke from a campfire, swift, cold, and final. This isn't a game of ego, it's a form of self-preservation. Studies in social psychology show that individuals who are highly self-reliant and introspective tend to withdraw rather than confront when trust is broken. That's the Sigma's natural response, not out of weakness, but out of strength. He knows his time, energy, and mental space are sacred, and he protects them fiercely. When he distances himself, it's not to punish, it's to maintain his peace. So if a Sigma walks away, don't mistake his silence for indecision. It's a loud, deliberate choice. He respects others, yes, but he respects himself more. And that's what makes him so rare in a world obsessed with validation and noise. He's not trying to impress you. He's not here to climb ladders or win popularity contests. He's here to live on his own terms, and that makes him both fascinating and formidable. So if a Sigma gives you his respect, cherish it. But if you lose it, don't expect a speech, just expect the echo of his absence. Number 6, he can walk away from anyone. Friend, boss, lover, even family. A Sigma male's boundaries apply across the board, and that's what makes him different. He doesn't walk away from people to make a statement to be dramatic or to punish someone with silence. No, he walks away to protect his peace, something he values more than popularity, approval, or tradition. While most people are conditioned to stick around and fix relationships because of history, obligation, or fear of being judged, the Sigma sees it differently. For him, loyalty isn't bought with time spent. It's earned through mutual respect, honesty, and integrity. If that foundation begins to crack, he doesn't waste energy patching a sinking ship. Instead, he quietly steps back. No explanations, no scenes, just distance. Psychologists refer to this as detachment with awareness, the ability to remain emotionally centered while stepping back from unhealthy dynamics. Sigma males have mastered this. They don't thrive on chaos, they retreat from it. It's not that they don't feel pain or care about others. It's that they've learned how to care without sacrificing themselves. When a relationship, whether personal or professional, becomes toxic, they don't argue or beg for respect. They remove themselves. And because this behavior challenges traditional emotional expectations, society often mislabels it as coldness, arrogance, or even narcissism. But in reality, it's emotional discipline rooted in self-preservation. In the animal kingdom, lone wolves are often misunderstood in the same way. They're not banished from the pack. They choose solitude for survival. Sigma males operate on the same principle. They're not antisocial, they're selectively social. Their departure isn't rejection, it's redirection. They understand that not everyone deserves access to their energy. This mindset can be intimidating, especially to those who thrive on codependence or manipulation. But to the Sigma, walking away isn't weakness, it's strength, it's clarity, it's choosing growth over guilt. So when he walks away from a friend, a boss, a lover, even family, it's not to hurt, it's to heal. The world might call that cold, but the Sigma, he calls it survival. And in a society that often rewards conformity and emotional chaos, survival requires a powerful combination of inner peace, quiet strength, and unapologetic self-respect. Number 7, he disarms women without trying. He doesn't chase, he doesn't flirt, he just exists. And somehow that's enough to spark curiosity, admiration, and even desire. The Sigma male operates on a frequency that doesn't beg for attention, but commands it through quiet presence. In a world saturated with performative masculinity, loud bravado, constant validation seeking, and overused pickup tactics, the Sigma male's silence becomes his loudest trait. Psychologists refer to this as non-reactive confidence, a trait linked to emotional intelligence and high self-awareness. His eye contact doesn't dart around nervously, it lingers just long enough to be felt, not forced. His words aren't thrown out like darts in a bar. They're chosen with surgical precision, leaving a lasting impression. And ironically, it's his absence that tends to make the most noise. That's because when someone isn't easily accessible, our brains activate what's called the Zeigarnik effect. We fixate more on the unfinished, the unanswered, and the unknown. This psychological mystery fuels magnetism. He's not playing games or manipulating emotions. What people perceive as seduction is actually discipline, power through restraint. By refusing to chase or conform, the Sigma male reminds others that self-respect is the highest form of attraction. His life doesn't orbit around anyone's validation. It revolves around his mission, his solitude, and his sense of purpose. And that gravitational pull, it's the natural consequence of a man who doesn't try to be magnetic. He just is. In a world where everyone is shouting, his silence becomes the most irresistible sound in the room. Number 8, he forces others to confront themselves. The deepest reason people fear him isn't because he's loud, aggressive, or dominant. It's because he is a mirror that reflects everything they are not. His discipline quietly reveals their procrastination and lack of self-control. When he maintains calm under pressure, it makes their internal chaos feel louder and more unstable. His self-reliance shines a harsh light on their dependency and constant need for validation, and perhaps most unsettling of all is his silence. In a world addicted to noise and distraction, his stillness acts like a spiritual vacuum, forcing others to confront the mental clutter they work so hard to avoid. Neurologically, the brain is wired to seek comfort in familiar behavior. When someone disrupts that norm, especially with stoic calm and quiet strength, it triggers discomfort and even resentment in others. He doesn't need to say a word to challenge someone's identity. He doesn't need to judge, condemn, or compare. He simply And that unshakable presence is often more terrifying than any confrontation. It's not that he's threatening, he's just authentic. And in a world where masks are worn like armor, authenticity can be both magnetic and intimidating. It shakes foundations, rattles egos, and forces introspection. People fear him not for what he does, but for what he represents. The possibility that they too could be more, but aren't. And that realization, more than anything, can be unbearable. Becoming untouchable isn't about building walls, it's about refining your inner world until nothing external can shake it. A Sigma male isn't created by chance. He's shaped by pressure, like carbon turning into diamond. Every betrayal becomes a lesson. Every setback becomes fuel. Solitude becomes his training ground. While most chase validation, the Sigma retreats inward, mastering his thoughts, sharpening his intentions. Psychologically, this mirrors Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the journey of becoming one's true self, free from societal conditioning. The Sigma doesn't demand attention, yet people notice him. Why? Because authenticity is magnetic. He doesn't follow trends. He becomes the standard others unconsciously measure themselves against. Power, for him, isn't loud or domineering. It's quiet, calculated, and deeply rooted in competence. Neuroscience even shows that individuals who can self-regulate emotions and delay gratification tend to achieve greater long-term success, traits that align with the Sigma's code. His silence isn't emptiness, it's focus. His coldness, precision. If you've been misunderstood for being too quiet, too intense, or too independent, you're likely not lacking anything. You're just operating on a frequency others haven't tuned into. And in a world full of noise, the man who moves in silence becomes the loudest force in the room. The Sigma isn't trying to be untouchable, he just is, because mastery, not popularity, is his North Star. Keep evolving. Stay dangerous. Stay Sigma. He doesn't repeat his power, he refines it. While the world scrambles for attention, validation, and recognition, the Sigma male operates in silence. His presence barely noticed, yet his impact unmistakable. He doesn't broadcast his moves because he knows true strength doesn't need a spotlight. Instead of showing off, he sharpens his edge, daily, silently, methodically. In the realm of personal development, Sigma males embody the psychological concept of deliberate practice, a scientifically backed method used by elite performers to improve mastery through focused, repetitive effort. He's not grinding for applause. He's building internal resilience and mental clarity. Studies in behavioral science show that individuals who embrace solitude and intrinsic motivation often outperform those driven by external approval. That's the Sigma in action. You don't see him coming because he's not broadcasting his climb. He's busy refining the blueprint. And by the time you notice, he's already executed the next move. This video isn't for the average man, the crowd pleaser, or the trend follower. It's for the lone wolf, the man whose silence is louder than 1,000 voices, whose discipline is a fortress. He doesn't chase popularity or mimic culture. He builds character through invisible routines. Repetition is his ritual. Focus is his fuel. His habits may look ordinary, but underneath lies a tactical system for personal dominance, rooted in self-control, strategic detachment, and mental discipline. He's not chasing wins to compete with others. He's busy conquering himself. The Sigma male is a living paradox, highly capable but disinterested in validation, highly present yet seemingly distant, and that makes him unshakable. Today we're going deep into the core of his mindset, unpacking the 8 unstoppable habits that forge his inner command. These aren't flashy or performative. They are refined, calculated, and powerful tools that turn an average man into an exceptional one. This isn't about impressing the world. It's about mastering your own. Let's begin. Number 1, tactical mindfulness. The Sigma male is hyper-aware, but not hyperactive. There's a significant difference. Unlike the average person who gets pulled in 100 directions by social media, opinions, gossip, and emotional impulses, the Sigma male practices what can only be described as tactical mindfulness. This isn't about sitting cross-legged in a mountain cave humming to the universe. No, this is mental warfare. Tactical mindfulness is the deliberate discipline of knowing deserves your attention and deserves to be ignored. It's not about zoning out. It's about zoning on what actually matters. The Sigma doesn't allow his mental space to become a dumping ground for emotional clutter or useless distractions. Instead, he filters every thought like a sniper watching through a scope, Steady, selective, precise. If a thought or emotion enters his mind, it doesn't get an automatic reaction. It gets observed, evaluated, and either redirected or discarded. This level of discipline comes from understanding how the brain works. Neuroscience shows that the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making and focus, is easily hijacked by constant stimulation. But Sigmas are wired differently. They train themselves to resist this hijacking by consciously limiting exposure to unnecessary input. That means turning off the noise, setting boundaries with toxic people, and even ignoring inner dialogue that doesn't serve a purpose. This self-awareness creates a calm, unshakable mental state. In a world that rewards reaction, the Sigma rewards reflection. When chaos breaks out, he's not the one panicking, he's the one assessing. When distractions flood the room, he narrows his focus even more. This doesn't mean he's emotionless, it means he's emotionally intelligent. He's not cold, he's calculated. And this makes him nearly impossible to manipulate. People can't guilt-trip him, push his buttons, or steer him with drama. Why? Because he's already spotted the game. He's already decided whether it's worth his energy. That's what tactical mindfulness gives him, the ability to choose his mental battles wisely. In a sense, the Sigma male operates like a stoic strategist in a noisy battlefield, watching, waiting, and only acting when it truly matters. It's not laziness, it's mastery, and while the rest of the world is spinning in emotional circles, the Sigma stands firm, hyper-aware of the storm, but never swept away by it. Number 2, minimalism as a weapon. To most people, minimalism is just a style, clean lines, neutral tones, and tidy spaces that look good on social media. But for the Sigma male, minimalism goes far deeper. It's not about aesthetics, it's about efficiency. It's a conscious strategy designed to eliminate distractions and amplify focus. His minimalist life is not the result of lacking resources or ambition, it's the result of surgical selection. He doesn't fill his closet with clothes he'll never wear or his schedule with events that drain his energy. He curates his environment, his commitments, and even his social circle with ruthless precision. Everything in his world exists to serve a purpose. If it doesn't serve, it doesn't stay. This stripped-down approach is more than personal preference, it's backed by cognitive science. Studies show that cluttered environments increase stress levels and reduce productivity. The Sigma male intuitively understands this. A minimalist lifestyle frees his mental bandwidth for what truly matters: creation, strategy, and freedom. His space is clean because his mind is clear. He doesn't need to be surrounded by symbols of status or abundance to feel powerful. He knows real strength lies in control. And nothing says control like being intentional about what enters your life. By owning fewer things, he has fewer worries. By talking less, he understands more. By staying under the radar, he can move without resistance. This isn't isolation, it's insulation. His silence protects him. His simplicity empowers him. While the rest of the world is busy broadcasting their lives, chasing trends, and collecting clutter, physical, emotional, and digital, the Sigma male is somewhere quiet, listening, observing, planning. The loud world misses the subtleties. The Sigma doesn't. In the stillness of his lifestyle, he picks up on what others overlook: opportunities, intentions, and patterns. Minimalism for him is armor. It shields him from noise, nonsense, and needless obligations. It grants him time, focus, and freedom, resources far more valuable than material possessions. He's not trying to impress, he's trying to progress. And ironically, by removing the excess, he gains the ultimate luxury: clarity. His life isn't empty, it's razor sharp. Every object, word, and action has weight. To the world, it may seem like he's holding back. In truth, he's holding power, quietly, strategically, and on his own terms. Number 3, deep work over shallow motion. While others glorify hustle, the Sigma male seeks depth. In a world that idolizes grinding 24/7, Sigma males quietly rebel, not by being lazy, but by being focused. He doesn't mistake being busy for being productive. Instead, he invests in what Cal Newport famously called deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks. Unlike the masses who are trapped in endless cycles of checking emails, responding to pings, and doom scrolling on social media, the Sigma operates in what neuroscientists call a flow state. This is where the brain hits peak performance. No interruptions, no dopamine chasing, just full immersion. Research shows that multitasking reduces productivity by up to 40%, yet society still clings to it like a badge of honor. The Sigma knows better. His routine is built around cognitive solitude, extended periods of intentional silence where he can think, build, and execute without being pulled in 1,000 directions. From the outside, his progress may seem slow, even invisible. He's not constantly updating his followers or flaunting productivity hacks. But underneath, his work is surgical, precise, layered, and cumulative. Like a master sculptor chiseling away at marble, every session of deep focus removes what's unnecessary and reveals something timeless. While others chase quantity, more meetings, more posts, more noise, the Sigma chases quality. It's not about how many hours he puts in, it's about what those hours produce. 1 hour of uninterrupted deep work can be more valuable than an entire day of distracted busyness. He creates systems, not chaos. He builds leverage, not burnout. He doesn't need to prove he's working because the results, when they come, are undeniable. This is why Sigma males are often underestimated until suddenly they're years ahead. Their secret isn't speed, it's direction. It's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, deeply, deliberately, and without distraction. Number 4, mastery through repetition. The Sigma male doesn't chase novelty. He worships repetition. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, dopamine hits, and the next big thing, the Sigma walks a different path, one paved with discipline, monotony, and mastery. While others jump from one trend to another, seeking excitement and instant gratification, the Sigma drills the same movements, thoughts, and actions over and over again until they vanish into muscle memory. This isn't a lack of creativity, it's the pursuit of precision. Psychology and neuroscience back this up. Studies show that repetition strengthens neural pathways, allowing actions and thoughts to become automatic and more efficient over time. This is how elite performers, whether athletes, musicians, or thinkers, achieve excellence. They don't rely on motivation or mood, they rely on habits. Bruce Lee once said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." That's the Sigma's philosophy in a sentence. He knows that true excellence is boring. It's not flashy. It's the same action, repeated until it becomes a razor's edge. Even the most creative geniuses, from Leonardo da Vinci to Kobe Bryant, understood that greatness isn't found in bursts of inspiration, but in the quiet grind, daily, unrelenting, ritualistic. The Sigma doesn't chase new tools or distractions because he understands that mastery comes from depth, not width. He knows that repetition is how instinct is built, and instinct is how legends are made. While others burn out chasing novelty, the Sigma burns deeper, forging something timeless in the fire of repetition. Talent might give someone a head start, but repetition decides who finishes the race. That's why the Sigma rises, not because he was born gifted, but because he kept showing up. He refines the same power again and again until it becomes invisible, until it becomes him. Number 5, emotional control as power. While others explode, the Sigma absorbs. In a world addicted to instant reactions and emotional outbursts, the Sigma male remains still, centered, and deeply aware. He feels everything, yes, the rage, the doubt, the longing, but he doesn't leak. His emotional control is not a byproduct of repression or apathy, it's the result of deliberate training. Many mislabel this as coldness, as if his silence signals a lack of feeling. But in reality, it's the opposite. He feels more than most. He just doesn't let those feelings run the show. Instead of becoming a puppet to his emotions, he studies them, understanding where they come from, how they work, and what they're trying to signal. This is emotional intelligence in its rawest form, not the sanitized version taught in corporate workshops, but the battlefield-tested awareness that separates leaders from followers. A Sigma doesn't let anger drive him into reckless decisions. He lets it sharpen his clarity, but never his tongue. He doesn't allow fear to stall his momentum. It becomes fuel, not a chain. And while desire can blind most men, for the Sigma, it becomes a challenge to master, not an urge to indulge blindly. Modern psychology supports this kind of self-regulation. Studies in emotional intelligence by researchers like Daniel Goleman show that those who can understand and manage their emotional responses tend to perform better in leadership roles, relationships, and crisis situations. This is where the Sigma thrives, not because he denies emotion, but because he has power over it. This habit of feeling deeply but choosing his response deliberately is what makes the Sigma dangerous, not in a violent way, but in an unpredictable, high-level chess player way. People expect reactions. The Sigma gives them silence. They push for buttons to press. He shows none. While others are emotionally hijacked by the moment, the Sigma remains anchored. His stoic demeanor isn't a mask. It's his real face, forged by experiences that taught him to stop leaking energy into the void. And that's the threat. Not that he feels nothing, but that he feels everything. Dissects it like a strategist and acts only when it serves a higher purpose. That's not coldness, that's control. Number 6, strategic disappearance. One of the Sigma male's most misunderstood behaviors is his sudden tendency to vanish without explanation. To many it seems cold, distant, or emotionally detached. But for the Sigma, this disappearance isn't about running away from people. It's a tactical withdrawal from the chaos of external noise. He retreats not because he's overwhelmed, but because he's recalibrating. Just like an elite operative who vanishes to regroup and re-strategize, the Sigma uses solitude to sharpen his mind, reset his instincts, and protect his vision from the constant bombardment of distractions and emotional interference. In psychology, this aligns with the concept of the idea that our brains have a limited capacity for processing information. Social interactions, no matter how minor, consume energy. The Sigma knows this intuitively. By stepping back into silence, he creates space for deep reflection, uninterrupted focus, and personal growth. Neuroscience even supports this. Studies show that periods of solitude enhance creativity, boost memory consolidation, and activate the brain's default mode network, responsible for introspection and future planning. When the Sigma male ghosts, he's not ghosting people out of spite. He's ghosting the mindless small talk, the social expectations, and the uninvited opinions that clutter his path. In a world obsessed with constant visibility, he recognizes that presence can be draining and that too much exposure weakens clarity. His disappearance, then, is not a form of emotional immaturity, but a form of psychological self-preservation. It is a discipline, a power move. His silence isn't absence, it's presence in another form, and while others interpret his detachment as a flaw, the Sigma sees it as evolution. He's not escaping, he's elevating in stealth mode. This habit of vanishing is his way of staying in control, preserving energy and aligning himself with a higher sense of purpose. Because sometimes the best way to stay true to who you are is to disappear just long enough to return with more focus, more clarity, and more force than before. Number 7, information over opinion. The Sigma male moves through the world with a quiet force that baffles those addicted to noise. While most are quick to speak, eager to react, and desperate to be heard, the Sigma does something radically different. He waits. He doesn't speak unless there's value in his words. And that's not because he's shy or unsure. It's because he respects the power of language. In a society where words are used carelessly and opinions are hurled like weapons, the Sigma treats communication like a craft. He knows that silence, when used wisely, is more commanding than the loudest voice in the room. He doesn't argue for the sake of being right. Instead, he observes. He watches people, patterns, and behaviors. He dissects headlines, questions the motives behind them, and follows the trail of information far beyond what's trending. The Sigma is a student of reality, while others form their beliefs based on tribe, emotion, or ideology. The Sigma seeks facts. Studies show that people are more likely to believe emotionally charged falsehoods than objective truths, a phenomenon psychologists call the illusory truth effect. But the Sigma resists that trap. He chooses information over opinion, logic over emotion, and truth over tribal loyalty. He's the kind of man who would rather spend an hour reading a well-researched book than debating someone who hasn't questioned their own beliefs in years. And when he listens, it's not just to respond, it's to understand. He sees listening as a tool to learn, not a pause before counterattack. That's why when a Sigma finally speaks, it's like a spotlight turning on in a dark room. People notice, they lean in. His words carry weight because they've been distilled through thought, reflection, and intention. They're not off the cuff or driven by ego, they're deliberate. In a world full of chatter, the Sigma's voice cuts through because it isn't competing for attention. It commands it. He's proof that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. In an age ruled by reaction, he remains grounded, calm, and informed. And that makes him dangerous in the best possible way, because when a man like that finally speaks, people don't just listen, they. Number 8, self-initiated evolution. The final habit of the Sigma male isn't really a habit at all, it's a guiding principle. He lives by a code of constant evolution, not because society demands it or because some motivational speaker told him to, but because he expects it of himself. While many people wait until a life crisis, like a breakup, financial loss, or health scare, to reevaluate and grow, the Sigma male operates differently. He doesn't need to hit rock bottom to start climbing. Instead, he actively studies his blind spots, his flaws, and his patterns before they sabotage him. Psychologists refer to this kind of self-directed growth as a cognitive process that allows someone to manage their behavior and adapt to changing environments. But for the Sigma, it goes beyond a psychological concept, it's a lifestyle. He treats each version of himself as a draft, not a final copy. He's not married to one identity or persona. He doesn't cling to who he was a year ago. He doesn't say, that's just how I am. Instead, he's addicted to improvement, always hunting for what needs to be refined. While others chase comfort, routine, and social approval, the Sigma male seeks challenge, change, and clarity. When others plateau and settle, he shifts. This ability to stay in motion, to adapt, and to intentionally shed old skins is what makes the Sigma a quiet force. In evolutionary terms, adaptability is survival. In the Sigma's world, it's not just survival, it's dominance. He keeps climbing long after others give up. Not because he has something to prove, but because rising is the only direction he knows. This isn't motivation. This is identity, forged through discipline, and that's what makes him unstoppable. The Sigma male isn't some fantasy dreamed up by online forums or social media trends. He's a real, evolving archetype, a man who walks a solitary path with purpose, not out of rebellion, but out of alignment with something deeper. Unlike alpha males who dominate through presence or betas who follow to feel safe, the Sigma carves his own lane, often mastering life's subtleties that most overlook. He doesn't chase validation, popularity, or comparison. His competition is the man he was yesterday. He's not trying to be above anyone. He's too engrossed in becoming the most refined, self-possessed version of himself. This isn't a character act. It's a lifestyle rooted in autonomy, introspection, and emotional control. If you've ever felt the weight of silence more powerful than the loudest voice in the room, if you find peace in solitude and discomfort in shallow social noise, you may already be living by Sigma habits without even knowing it. And here's the truth. You don't need to overhaul who you are. You need to polish what's already within. Society often tries to mold men into predictable roles. But Sigma men aren't here to play a role. They're here to build legacies in silence, to shape influence without shouting, and to prove that masculinity doesn't need a spotlight to be powerful. In a world addicted to attention, the Sigma stays elusive, yet magnetic. The future doesn't belong to the loudest. It belongs to those who understand when to speak, when to act, and when to disappear. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more men of quiet power, more thoughtful builders, more refined warriors. It needs more Sigma. Stay curious, stay deliberate, stay Sigma. He walks in, says nothing, and yet every head turns, not because he tries, because he doesn't. What women notice about Sigma males isn't loud or obvious. It's not the flash of a designer watch or the volume of his voice. It's something deeper, intangible, but unmistakable. This isn't about conventional attraction. It's not about the guy with the biggest muscles or the smoothest pickup lines. It's about a kind of presence that whispers instead of shouts. Sigma males exude a raw, grounded energy, what psychologists might call nonverbal dominance. Research into social dynamics shows that confident body language, unbroken eye contact, and relaxed posture often communicate higher status more effectively than words ever could. But for Sigma males, it goes even further. Their confidence isn't performative, it's internalized. They don't need validation, and that lack of need becomes magnetic. Women sense it immediately, not with their logic, but with their instincts. Evolutionary psychology suggests that women are biologically wired to detect traits associated with strength, independence, and self-sufficiency, especially in environments where resources and protection once meant survival. The Sigma male embodies that archetype. He's not interested in the social games, but paradoxically, that makes him the most intriguing player on the board. His silence speaks volumes. His stillness holds weight, and when he walks into a room, he carries the kind of presence that feels like a storm gathering on the horizon, calm, yet impossible to ignore. This is why women notice him, not for how he dresses, talks, or flirts, but for how he doesn't. He doesn't chase, he doesn't impress, he just... And in a world full of noise, that rare silence, the confident kind, becomes deafening. So today, as we decode this magnetic aura, we're diving into the psychology behind the Sigma mystique, the primal cues that set him apart, and the silent power that captures attention without ever asking for it. Number one, his eyes don't linger. He makes eye contact but doesn't devour. He sees you but he doesn't need you. That controlled gaze speaks volumes. It's not just a stare, it's a psychological statement. In a world where many men use eye contact as a display of dominance or a tool for seduction, the Sigma male engages differently. His gaze isn't desperate or predatory, it's discerning, composed, and self-contained. Studies in psychology suggest that prolonged eye contact can trigger the brain's social and emotional circuits, sometimes increasing perceived attraction or tension. But when the Sigma male locks eyes with someone, he doesn't do it to impress or manipulate, he does it to understand. His eyes don't roam hungrily, they evaluate. That's what makes it powerful. His presence says, I'm here. I'm aware, but I don't seek validation. This is intimidating to some and magnetic to others. It challenges expectations in a society where most people are used to overt interest or obvious emotional cues. The Sigma male's control over his gaze is an extension of his autonomy. He doesn't look at you to make you feel wanted. He looks at you to see who you really are. And if you're used to attention that feels needy or exaggerated, his calm detachment might feel unsettling. But that's the beauty of it. You're not being consumed by his attention, you're being observed quietly, intentionally, without pressure. That kind of restraint is rare. Evolutionary psychology tells us that eye contact evolved as a tool for bonding and cooperation, but also for threat detection and status negotiation. The Sigma male's gaze bypasses those primal games. He's not scanning for social rank or approval. He already knows who he is. That's why his gaze doesn't linger to conquer. It simply lands, assesses, and moves on if needed. And if it stays, it's because he chooses, not because he needs. This makes his eye contact both compelling and confusing. People can feel seen without being objectified. They can feel acknowledged without being pursued. And that paradox is what makes his presence unforgettable. In a culture overloaded with performative confidence and artificial charm, the Sigma male's steady eye contact is an act of rebellion. It says, I'm not here to win you over, I'm here to be real. That subtle intensity carries more weight than any flashy smile or sweet talk ever could. It's not loud, but it's loud enough to change the whole tone of a room. Number two, his posture is still, not loud. He doesn't puff his chest or swing his arms to be noticed. His posture says, I'm present, I'm enough. And that's exactly what sets him apart. In a world obsessed with noise, bravado, and performance, the Sigma male's quiet confidence is a rare currency. His body language is intentional, never excessive, never showy, but always grounded. It's a powerful form of nonverbal communication, rooted in self-awareness and emotional intelligence, while others may overcompensate with exaggerated gestures or artificial charisma. The Sigma understands that true presence doesn't need to be advertised. Scientific studies on posture and psychology reveal that those who maintain upright yet relaxed postures are perceived as more trustworthy and competent. The Sigma uses this to his advantage, not to manipulate, but to reflect an inner truth. He's not trying to prove anything to anyone because his self-worth isn't measured by external validation. Instead, it radiates from within. You won't catch him adjusting his behavior for attention or approval. He walks into a room not to dominate it, but to simply be part of it with complete self-possession. That subtle energy commands more respect than shouting ever could. Think of the way lions move, graceful, deliberate, never frantic. That's the essence of Sigma body language. He listens more than he speaks, observes more than he reacts. And when he does speak or move, it's with precision and purpose. Women especially notice this. Numerous studies in evolutionary psychology suggest that calm confidence signals high status and emotional stability, traits deeply attractive on a subconscious level. But here's the twist. The Sigma doesn't project this to attract anyone. It just happens as a natural consequence of his authenticity. That's what makes his presence magnetic. It's not about puffing his chest, it's about aligning his body, mind, and spirit in quiet harmony. He's not trying to be the loudest in the room, he's trying to be the most centered. That's not weakness, it's strength refined. In a world constantly trying to prove itself, he remains untouched by the scramble. His stillness speaks volumes. He doesn't need to raise his voice or raise his chin. His presence, his energy, his calm posture, they do all the talking. And somehow, without even trying, everyone notices. Number 3, his phone stays in his pocket. He isn't addicted to distraction. When he's out, he's fully out, not chasing digital attention. That's one of the rarest traits in today's hyper-connected world. In an era where most people can't go 5 minutes without checking their phones, scrolling endlessly, or chasing likes and views for validation, the man who resists this compulsion stands out like a silent mountain in the middle of chaos. He's not glued to a screen while pretending to be present. When he steps outside, whether into a forest trail, a quiet cafe, or even a crowded city, he immerses himself in the environment, not in a digital feed. Psychologists have warned for years that our brains are becoming rewired by constant exposure to dopamine-triggering apps. Every ping, every notification, every new scroll delivers a small hit of pleasure, similar to what happens with gambling or even certain drugs. This creates a feedback loop that many people find hard to escape, but not him. He values presence over performance and stillness over stimulation. This isn't just preference, it's discipline. Neuroscience tells us that attention is one of our brain's most limited resources, and it guards it like a king protects a throne. He chooses intentional living over reactive existence. While others are chasing viral moments, he's building quiet momentum in the real world, learning, observing, and evolving. His ability to delay gratification and to resist the easy thrill of distraction makes him formidable. And here's the kicker. When he speaks or shares something, it hits harder. Why? Because it wasn't diluted by noise. It came from focus, clarity, and real thought. It's no coincidence that some of the most successful and respected figures in history, Einstein, Marcus Aurelius, and Nikola Tesla, prized solitude and focused attention. They understood what modern research now confirms. Uninterrupted deep work leads to brilliance. So when this man chooses to disconnect from the artificial urgency of the digital world, he's not being antisocial. He's reclaiming his time, his mind, and his soul. He's present in a way that makes people uncomfortable because they're reminded of how absent they are. While others fear boredom, he sees it as a doorway to insight. While others distract themselves into mediocrity, he centers himself into excellence. That's not just refreshing, it's revolutionary. Number 4, he listens without waiting to speak. Rare, powerful. He listens not to reply, but to understand or to decide if it's even worth replying. That's the silent strength of the Sigma male. In a world that rewards noise and speed, Sigma men move with quiet calculation. Their listening isn't passive, it's an art form. While most people engage in conversations as a performance, eager to speak, to impress, to dominate, Sigma males approach dialogue as an opportunity to gather data, to observe, and to discern. Their silence isn't awkward, it's intentional. Psychology calls this a skill that's often taught in therapy rooms and leadership seminars, but for the Sigma male, it's instinctual. He absorbs not just words, but also tone, body language, hesitations, and contradictions. He knows that people often reveal more through what they say. And while others interrupt to make a point or prove something, the Sigma stays still, calculating whether the exchange even deserves his energy. You see, Sigmas don't chase validation through conversation. They're not concerned with being liked or accepted in social groups. That's what makes them unpredictable and magnetic. When they do speak, people listen, because their words are rare, deliberate, and often razor sharp. There's a psychological phenomenon known as the quiet power effect. When someone who rarely speaks finally does, their voice carries more weight. Sigma males embody this. They have trained themselves to be comfortable in silence, and that discomfort you feel when they pause, that's where their dominance lies. Their silence becomes a mirror, forcing others to confront their own insecurity. And when the Sigma respond, it's not to argue, it's to clarify truth. He doesn't get pulled into debates or emotional traps because he's already listened long enough to see the game being played. This makes him a master in negotiation, leadership, and interpersonal strategy. In a time where everyone wants to be heard, the Sigma man understands the power of speaking unless it matters. He filters nonsense from substance, vanity from vulnerability, and noise from truth. Listening, for him, isn't about approval or politeness, it's about discernment. He's not here to fill silence, he's here to learn from it, rule through it, and when necessary, speak through it. That's what makes him rare. That's what makes him powerful. Number 5, he smiles with restraint, not fake charm, no excessive grinning, just calm recognition, a subtle nod. That's his language. In a world that celebrates loud personalities and flamboyant entrances, the Sigma male remains quietly distinct. He doesn't rely on performative friendliness to make an impression. He understands something that many miss. True power doesn't need to be broadcast. It's felt. When he enters a room, he doesn't need to plaster on a smile or throw around forced compliments. Instead, he offers presence. His body language speaks volumes, a calm gaze, a composed posture, and at most a slight nod that acknowledges others without surrendering his personal space. This isn't rudeness, it's intentional energy conservation. Psychologically, subtle, controlled expressions like the nod are associated with self-confidence and inner calm, traits that naturally draw people in without him having to say a word. Evolutionary biology even supports this. In ancient tribal settings, dominant males didn't have to assert dominance with over-the-top behavior. The truly respected men were those who could control their emotions and reactions, commanding attention through quiet certainty. That subtle nod, it's not just a greeting, it's a code. It says, I see you, but I'm not trying to impress you. It's a filtered form of communication, stripped of social fluff. The Sigma male knows that charisma without authenticity is manipulation, and he wants no part of that. So he speaks in gestures that align with his nature. His eye contact isn't prolonged or challenging, it's respectful and grounded. His smile, when it appears, is rare and real. That's why it feels powerful. The absence of forced charm makes his interactions feel like quiet respect, not performance. And this drives people crazy in the best way. It disarms them. They're used to peacocks in suits and loud laughter trying to win approval. But with him, there's no performance, just presence. This doesn't mean he's cold or arrogant. In fact, studies on introverted yet emotionally intelligent men suggest they often build deeper trust over time because their interactions feel more genuine. So, when a Sigma male gives you that calm recognition, don't misread the simplicity. That subtle nod is a signal of control, confidence, and peace, a rare trifecta in today's overstimulated world. And in that moment you understand something. Sometimes silence and sincerity are more powerful than 1,000 empty words. Number 6. He doesn't fidget, no restless movements, no nervous gestures. His stillness reveals control, and control attracts. In a world that's constantly buzzing with noise, distractions, and people fighting to be noticed, the Sigma male's stillness stands out like a mountain in the middle of a storm. He doesn't fidget or pace, nor does he feel the need to fill silence with small talk or exaggerated gestures. Instead, he remains composed, calm, calculated, and deeply aware of his surroundings. This level of self-control isn't an accident. It's a cultivated mindset that stems from inner confidence, emotional discipline, and high self-awareness. Psychology tells us that people unconsciously associate physical stillness with authority and competence. Think of how a lion doesn't need to roar to prove its power. It simply watches, waits, and moves only when necessary. That's the Sigma male. His body language is minimal but intentional. He doesn't cross his arms out of insecurity or shift his weight nervously. He simply occupies space with quiet dominance. This kind of presence is magnetic because it signals mastery of the self, a rare trait in today's hyperreactive world. Research in nonverbal communication reveals that people who exhibit fewer anxious behaviors are often perceived as more trustworthy, intelligent, and powerful. The Sigma male, by exuding calm and being unbothered by social expectations, taps directly into this psychological effect. He's not performing for attention, and that's precisely why he draws it. People are intrigued by those who don't seek validation, who are perfectly fine being silent in a world addicted to noise. His lack of visible tension gives off a mysterious aura. Women interpret it as confidence and stability. Men see it as strength and composure. This is not about being emotionless. It's about emotional control. It's about understanding that the loudest one in the room is often the weakest, and that true power flows silently. The Sigma male doesn't need to posture because his stillness does the talking. Every deliberate breath, every unhurried motion communicates, I am in control of myself, and I don't need to control anyone else to prove it. That kind of control is rare, and rarity, as always, is irresistible. Number 7. His style is clean but understated. No loud brands or trends, neutral colors, minimalist accessories. Function first, then form. That's how you know you're in the presence of a Sigma male. His appearance doesn't scream for attention, it whispers confidence. While most people dress to impress others, the Sigma dresses to impress only himself. His wardrobe is intentional, not performative. He doesn't need oversized logos or flashy designer tags to validate his worth. Instead, he gravitates toward timeless pieces that prioritize utility and comfort without sacrificing style. Think well-fitted jeans, classic plain tees, boots that can take a beating, and jackets that serve in both city streets and wilderness trails. There's an almost military precision to how he chooses what to wear. Every item has a purpose, and that purpose always aligns with his personal philosophy. Simplicity equals strength. In a world obsessed with the next fashion wave, the Sigma remains unmoved. His minimalist fashion choices reflect his inner values: clarity, efficiency, and self-reliance. And this isn't just preference, it's rooted in psychology. Studies have shown that men who wear neutral and functional clothing are often perceived as more competent and trustworthy. The Sigma knows this intuitively. He doesn't dress for the group, he dresses for the mission. His style says, I'm not here to blend in, but I'm not here to stand out either. I'm here to move forward. Even his accessories follow suit: a matte black watch, a worn-in leather wallet, a canvas backpack with just the essentials. Each item is a tool, not an ornament. It's not about trends, it's about timelessness. The Sigma male understands that the loudest person in the room is often the most insecure. So while others chase validation through outward displays, he invests in internal growth. His style is a reflection of that silent evolution. So the next time you see someone who seems understated but unshakably composed, who wears purpose like armor and simplicity like a crown, know that you're not just looking at his clothes, you're reading a code, a way of life that values essence over appearance. That's the Sigma signal: quiet on the outside, unwavering on the inside. Not flashy, but unforgettable. Number 8. He disappears after making an impression. Just when curiosity peaks, he vanishes, not to play games, but because he has other missions, and mystery lingers longer than presence. This behavior, often misunderstood, is deeply rooted in the psychology of the Sigma male archetype. Unlike extroverted types who thrive on attention and affirmation, Sigma males are introspective strategists who operate on a different frequency. Their sudden disappearance is not manipulation, it's a recalibration. Driven by purpose and independence, Sigma males don't linger where their presence isn't necessary or valued. In fact, psychological studies show that mystery and unpredictability increase attraction and intrigue, something known as the scarcity principle in behavioral science. The less someone is available, the more valuable their presence seems. This is not by design, but by default. Sigma males are naturally wired to detach from noise, chase solitude, and pursue missions others rarely see. They know that overstaying dulls impact. Like a comet streaking the sky, it's not the duration that captivates, it's the rarity. And so he leaves before the world gets too familiar with his light. In his silence, questions echo. In his absence, his presence magnifies. Not everyone will understand it, but that's exactly the point. They won't admit it. In fact, many might not even realize why. But the moment a Sigma male walks into a room, something shifts. It's not about flashy clothes, loud entrances, or smooth talk. It's the silence that follows him like a shadow. In a society obsessed with noise and validation, the Sigma's quiet confidence disrupts the norm. Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that individuals who exhibit calm detachment and high self-assurance often project the strongest presence without saying a word. This magnetic stillness taps into a primal intrigue. Women notice not because he tries, but because he doesn't have to. He warned you with his silence. You thought he was passive, until the silence turned into a storm. When a Sigma goes full savage, he doesn't raise his voice, he raises the stakes. Welcome to Brain Boosters, where noise dies and clarity speaks. The Sigma male walks through life like a shadow with weight, quiet, focused, and calculated. He's not in your face, not seeking attention, but his presence is undeniable. Unlike alpha males who dominate the room, or betas who follow the crowd, the Sigma doesn't play the game at all. He rewrites the rules. He operates on a frequency that's invisible to most, but impossible to ignore once triggered. He doesn't thrive on drama or chaos, but when pushed to his limits, he transforms into something unrecognizable, cold, precise, and unrelenting. It's not about shouting matches or emotional outbursts, it's about control of the situation, of the outcome, and most importantly, of himself. In psychological terms, Sigmas exhibit high levels of intrapersonal intelligence and emotional regulation. This allows them to assess threats, betrayals, or manipulations with stoic clarity and respond in ways that are swift, final, and often shocking. Going full savage mode doesn't mean he becomes violent. It means he enforces boundaries with surgical accuracy. He may cut off a manipulative friend without a word, dismantle toxic relationships like removing bad code from his life script, or walk away from situations most men cling to. Why? Because a Sigma male is not afraid of solitude, nor is he attached to validation. His silence is not weakness, it's observation. And when he acts, it's not for applause, it's for alignment. When the world pushes, the Sigma doesn't push back. He disappears, recalculates, and returns not to prove a point, but to prove he never needed to. This is what happens when the man who never needed the world decides to show the world why. This is what happens when a Sigma male goes full savage mode. Number 1, the world he walks in. The modern world is built on volume. Likes, views, followers, trends. The louder someone is, the more they're rewarded. In this age of constant noise, where people shout to be heard and post to be validated, the Sigma male moves in the opposite direction. He thrives in silence, not because he lacks power, but because he understands it. While society runs in circles chasing approval, the Sigma male operates from the sidelines, not out of fear or insecurity, but from a place of quiet mastery. His detachment isn't a flaw, it's a form of wisdom. In psychology, emotional detachment can be a healthy coping mechanism. It allows one to remain grounded, rational, and unaffected by the chaos of others. The Sigma doesn't avoid the world. He studies it. He sees the illusion of popularity, the shallowness of trends, the emptiness of attention-seeking. Society often mistakes his silence for submission. They assume if he isn't playing the power games, he must be powerless, but that's where they're wrong. His silence is not compliance, it's calculation. Detachment for the Sigma is not indifference, it's protection. He doesn't follow the crowd because he understands where the crowd is being led into distraction, conformity, and mediocrity. But when society pushes too far, when betrayal, disrespect, or manipulation crosses in a threshold, he doesn't react like the average man. He doesn't explode, post a rant, or seek petty revenge. He simply makes a move. Swift, cold, decisive. That's when the silent observer becomes the silent executor. He doesn't act out of emotion, he acts with intention. This trait mirrors the strategic temperament of a chess master, always several moves ahead, never revealing his plan until it's too late. He's not interested in revenge, he's interested in correction. That might mean removing people from his life, changing direction without explanation, or cutting ties with systems that no longer serve him. It's not drama, it's discipline. And discipline in its truest form is a kind of quiet strength. The Sigma male understands that sometimes the loudest message is spoken through action, not words. In a world obsessed with being seen, he chooses to be effective. While others burn themselves out trying to fit in or rise up the social ladder, the Sigma quietly builds a life on his own terms, unshaken, unnoticed, and ultimately undeniable. Number 2, the core within. The Sigma male's mind is a fortress, unyielding, impenetrable, and carved from years of solitude, silent reflection, and relentless self-discipline. He wasn't born this way. Life forged him. Every rejection didn't break him, it reinforced his inner walls. Every setback wasn't a failure, it was a sharpening stone. While others seek validation through noise, the Sigma male thrives in silence. When he goes savage, it's not a reckless outburst or emotional meltdown. It's a precise, controlled withdrawal, a cold, calculated removal of tolerance for nonsense, betrayal, or disrespect. He doesn't yell to prove his point, he exits, and when he leaves, he takes with him his energy, his loyalty, and the rare value he brought to the table. You don't get a second plea for loyalty from him. He doesn't negotiate with disloyalty. He replaces it with silence, a language that speaks louder than any confrontation. Psychologically, Sigmas often rank high in traits such as introversion, emotional independence, and strategic thinking, qualities linked to the INTJ or ISTP personality types in the Myers-Briggs system. They're not emotionally detached, but emotionally efficient. Emotion isn't a weakness in their world. It's a tool used sparingly, wisely. And when a Sigma enters savage mode, it's not vengeance, it's clarity. He strips away distractions, fake friendships, shallow drama, and everything that doesn't serve his purpose. It's minimalist masculinity at its peak. What aligns with his mission remains. What doesn't vanishes without fanfare. His coldness isn't cruelty, it's the consequence of misplaced trust. He was warm once, open, kind, even vulnerable, but some warmed their hands at his fire, only to set that same flame against him. That betrayal didn't ruin him, it refined him. Now the fire still burns, but behind stone walls and a watchful gatekeeper. Inside, he isn't bitter. He's simply done. Done with people who only show up when they need him. Done explaining himself to those who never cared to understand. Done offering parts of himself to those who only wanted to take. The savage Sigma isn't dangerous because he's angry, he's dangerous because he's clear. And when a man becomes that clear about who he is and what he will no longer accept, he becomes unstoppable. His silence becomes a boundary, his absence becomes a message. His focus becomes lethal. This isn't about revenge, it's about evolution. Number 3, the clash of worlds. The savage Sigma male doesn't explode, he evaporates. In a world obsessed with noise, dominance, and attention, the Sigma operates differently, silently, strategically, and with unnerving calm. When he withdraws, it's not to provoke a reaction, but to protect his energy. And in that cold retreat, the entire social dynamic begins to unravel. The alpha, who thrives on challenges and chest-thumping confrontation, is left baffled by the Sigma's sheer indifference. He sees the lack of response not as neutrality, but as a challenge to his dominance. The beta, reliant on affirmation and social approval, feels invisible and unworthy. Manipulators, those who rely on emotional bait, are left exposed when the Sigma refuses to play. And women who thought emotional games gave them leverage suddenly find themselves staring into an emotional abyss. The Sigma doesn't argue, shout, or slam doors. He simply vanishes, and his silence is deafening. That disappearance isn't a tantrum, it's a boundary, a permanent one. Psychologically, this behavior ties closely to what's known as or methods often used by those who have mastered emotional regulation. Sigma males by nature are introspective and self-reliant. They don't react impulsively, they calculate. Cutting someone off isn't an act of anger, but of self-respect. He isn't punishing you, he's protecting himself. And once he decides that someone has violated his core values or disrespected his essence, there's no warning shot. He's just gone, emotionally detached, spiritually distant, mentally unreachable. This isn't a power move, it's a survival instinct. When a Sigma enters savage mode, his usual quiet strength turns impenetrable. His boundaries aren't drawn in sand, they're carved in stone. And if you try to cross them, you'll find yourself alone, facing a version of him you never saw coming. The truth is, he doesn't need to destroy anyone. He lets their own actions do the work. The Sigma male knows this. Real power isn't in dominating others, but in mastering oneself. And once he's done with you, there's no comeback story, not because he hates you, but because he loves his peace more than your presence. That's the silent savagery of a Sigma male. Number 4, the rise of the lone wolf. Savage mode isn't chaos, it's clarity. It's not about rage, revenge, or emotional retaliation. For the Sigma male, going savage doesn't mean becoming unhinged, it means becoming unstoppable. While the world expects fireworks, noise, and dramatic displays of defiance, the Sigma takes a different route. He doesn't explode, he evolves. When life throws its harshest punches, others might rant, crumble, or seek attention. But the Sigma channels that storm inward, converting every wound into fuel. He hits the gym with a vengeance, not to show off, but to sharpen his mind-body connection. He disappears into books, business strategies, and self-discipline, not for applause, but for precision. He upgrades silently because he understands something most don't. The loudest man in the room is usually the weakest. The Sigma doesn't flaunt progress, he it. Every rejection, betrayal, or setback becomes a stepping stone. He doesn't post his grind on social media. He doesn't need cheers, likes, or validation. What he becomes in private, the world eventually cannot ignore. This is the essence of savage mode, the ruthless commitment to mastery without needing recognition. Psychology supports this mindset. Studies show that intrinsic motivation, the drive that comes from within, leads to more sustained success than chasing external approval. In savage mode, the Sigma doesn't seek to destroy others, that's too easy. He aims higher, to destroy every limit placed on him by fear, society, and self-doubt. And when he breaks those chains, he gains the rarest kind of freedom. Not freedom responsibility, but freedom. He no longer needs the world's validation, affection, or permission. That is true power. It's not about vengeance. It's not about proving others wrong. It's about victory, earned in silence, sealed in solitude. That's what makes the Sigma's savage mode terrifyingly beautiful. Not the chaos he causes, but the order he forges in himself. He becomes the man no one can control, no one can break, and no one can replace. And number 5, the precision of his strike. The savage Sigma doesn't throw punches, he throws outcomes. He's not interested in theatrics or emotional outbursts. Every move he makes is calculated, quiet, and precise, like a master strategist in a chess game, already 10 steps ahead before his opponent even realizes the game has begun. The Sigma male operates on an internal code built on self-respect, independence, and clarity. When he's disrespected or betrayed, he doesn't explode, he exposes. He doesn't lash out to prove a point, he simply lets the truth unveil itself. A liar's narrative begins to unravel, a manipulator's strings snap, a fake friend's mask slips, and the Sigma watches, detached yet aware, as everything falls into place exactly as he predicted. He doesn't need a spotlight to get even, his silence is louder than any confrontation. If you missed the warning signs, that was your mistake. The first sign was silence, an uncomfortable quiet that speaks volumes. The second was distance, both emotional and physical. And the third was disappearance, his complete withdrawal from your life like you were never there. This isn't drama, it's design. Sigma males don't give second chances after the line is crossed. And when they walk away, it's not to punish you, it's to protect their peace. There's no yelling, no social media rants, and no dramatic speeches. There's only absence. And in that absence lies a powerful message. You are never indispensable. You don't get a return ticket. When a Sigma leaves, he doesn't leave scars. He leaves lessons etched into your memory, not with pain, but with impact. Psychologically, this kind of response aligns with the traits of high self-differentiation, a concept in emotional intelligence where a person can remain calm and maintain their values under pressure. The Sigma's detachment isn't cold, it's controlled. It's a sign of emotional discipline, not emotional absence. In a world that rewards loud gestures, the Sigma male's power comes from his restraint. His revenge is not loud, messy, or public, it's permanent. Because for a Sigma, the ultimate victory isn't in defeating someone, it's in walking away unaffected, leaving the other person to confront their own actions. That's what makes him dangerous, not his wrath, but his refusal to engage in anything beneath him. When he cuts ties, it's surgical, clean, final, and unforgettable. Number 6, the weapon of indifference. People expect anger. They expect shouting, slamming doors, wild arguments, and emotional explosions. That's the script they know, the chaos they crave. But what throws them off, what truly shocks and disarms them, is indifference. That cold silence, that calm stare, that complete emotional detachment. It's not weakness, it's strategy. It's the Sigma male at his most dangerous. While most people react impulsively when provoked, the Sigma operates from a place of inner stillness. His greatest act of power isn't vengeance, it's neutrality. He doesn't let other people's drama penetrate his peace. You insult him, he doesn't retaliate, he observes. You betray him, he doesn't lash out. He nods, lets go, and disappears. You try to push his buttons, hoping for a reaction, but get only stillness in return. That's what makes him savage. Psychology confirms this behavior as a sign of high emotional intelligence. The ability to self-regulate, to delay gratification, and to detach from toxic patterns is the foundation of stoic strength. The Sigma male has mastered this. He's not emotionless, he just doesn't allow emotions to dominate him. His validation doesn't come from external approval. He's self-anchored, rooted in personal values and internal goals. This is not only rare, it's threatening to those who rely on manipulation, guilt, or chaos to control others. When a Sigma doesn't engage, it strips their power away. He becomes immune to drama, toxic cycles, and emotional traps. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. In fact, neuroscientists have found that people who cultivate calm under pressure activate areas of the brain associated with focus and long-term decision-making rather than fight or flight. So when the Sigma male refuses to feed the fire, he's not suppressing emotion, he's channeling it. That's why he's untouchable. He can feel everything but chooses to act on almost nothing. This restraint isn't weakness, it's dominance. The loudest man in the room may appear powerful, but the quiet one who doesn't flinch, he owns the room. And in that silence, in that composed smile after betrayal, the Sigma male communicates something that words never could. You don't control me, you never did. Number 7, the exile becomes a throne. When a Sigma male vanishes, people often assume he's running from something. But the truth is, he's not hiding, he's ascending. Solitude is his sanctuary, his forge, where the raw material of thought is shaped into something sharper and stronger. When the world becomes too noisy with gossip, too fake with shallow validation, or too hostile with constant judgment, the Sigma doesn't retaliate. He retreats into silence. But this isn't a retreat of weakness. It's a strategic withdrawal, like a warrior sharpening his sword in the dark. Science shows that solitude isn't harmful when chosen. It enhances creativity, boosts mental clarity, and fosters emotional regulation. And Sigma males understand this instinctively. While the masses are caught in an endless scroll of distraction and dopamine hits, he's resetting his inner compass. He's reflecting on his next mission. He's redefining his goals. It could be a shift in financial strategy, a personal transformation, or a deeper spiritual alignment. His solitude becomes the launch pad for reinvention. And by the time people start to wonder where he's gone, it's too late. He's already miles ahead, mentally sharper, emotionally balanced, and often financially upgraded. Studies in behavioral psychology even suggest that intentional isolation can enhance focus and goal attainment, traits Sigma males use to stay ahead of the curve. He doesn't need to announce his transformation. The results speak for themselves. So when a Sigma vanishes, don't be fooled into thinking he's lost. He's simply gone where few dare to go, inward. And in that silence, he's building, evolving, becoming. What looks like disappearance is actually a silent evolution, one that sets him apart not just from the noise, but from every man who's afraid of it. Number 8, the unseen legacy. The savage Sigma doesn't chase legacy, he becomes it. This isn't just a poetic idea, it's a way of life rooted in the powerful psychology of high-functioning lone wolves. Unlike traditional alpha personalities who dominate through external displays of power, or beta males who seek approval through conformity, the Sigma male carves his own path with quiet intensity. He doesn't crave validation or applause. He leaves behind no drama, no dependency, no trail of chaos, only results. In a world obsessed with noise, his silence is more deafening than any shout. While others trend, perform, or hustle for attention, the Sigma fades into the background, yet his absence leaves a void. His words, spoken with calculated intent, echo long after he's exited the scene. There's a reason this archetype resonates in culture, from Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name to Keanu Reeves' John Wick. These men don't seek fame, they become legends because they embody something eternal, mastery without ego, purpose without showmanship. Their discipline and self-sufficiency set them apart. They understand that true impact doesn't require an audience, it requires integrity. The savage Sigma has nothing left to prove. He's not playing a game of image or influence, he's playing for evolution. And when that inner switch flips, when his identity is no longer tied to external validation, that's when his real power begins. People call it cold, but he calls it clarity. Because clarity cuts deeper than emotion ever could. He sees the world without illusion, stripped of noise and distractions. That's why those who once doubted him now find themselves studying him, trying to understand how someone could walk away from everything, yet still hold the upper hand. He never needed a stage because he the message. His life becomes a mirror that reflects truth back at a world still addicted to pretense. In the end, the savage Sigma doesn't need to be remembered. He simply becomes unforgettable. So when the Sigma male goes full savage, it's not a loud declaration or a chest-thumping spectacle. It's a quiet revolution, deep within him and radiating silently outward. Unlike the alpha who charges forward with dominance, the Sigma doesn't need validation or applause. His transformation is surgical, not emotional. It's the product of long periods of observation, strategic withdrawal, and intense self-discipline. Psychologically, this shift aligns with Carl Jung's concept of the lone wolf archetype, a man who integrates both his shadow and strength without external approval. When a Sigma has nothing left to lose, he becomes dangerously focused. No more people-pleasing, no more explaining, just decisive action. And that unnerves everyone around him. Why? Because society is conditioned to fear what it can't predict. His silence, that wasn't weakness. It was sharpening. It was resilience being forged in solitude. When he finally moves, he doesn't seek to impress. He aims to evolve. He cuts ties, rewrites his path, and builds in silence. And when the world finally notices, it's too late to stop him. The savage mode of a Sigma isn't chaos, it's clarity, precision, and purpose unleashed. Stay curious, stay dangerous, stay Sigma. He doesn't follow the noise, he doesn't lead the crowd, he simply moves when it's time. And when he does, the world adjusts. This isn't just poetic flair, it's the essence of a Sigma male, a man who lives by his own rhythm, untethered by society's expectations. Unlike alpha males who command the spotlight or beta males who follow the herd, the Sigma male operates outside the hierarchy altogether. He doesn't need to dominate others to feel powerful, nor does he seek permission to exist authentically. In a world obsessed with attention, the Sigma finds power in restraint. He thrives in solitude, not because he's antisocial, but because solitude sharpens his mind and strengthens his independence. Psychologically, Sigma males tend to score high on traits like autonomy, introspection, and emotional self-regulation. They're strategic thinkers, not driven by ego, but by purpose. His silence isn't emptiness, it's calculation. He speaks when there's something worth saying. He moves when the time is right. His unpredictability isn't random, it's precise. He's the man who skips the party but shows up when things fall apart and knows exactly what to do. While others seek status symbols or social validation, the Sigma male finds satisfaction in self-mastery. He reads people effortlessly, not to manipulate them, but to stay steps ahead. Many confuse his detachment for coldness, but in truth he feels deeply. He simply refuses to perform his emotions. This rarity in temperament makes him misunderstood, even feared. But make no mistake, behind the stillness lies intensity, behind the silence is strength, and behind the detachment is purpose. If you've ever felt the urge to detach from shallow connections, to walk alone with your thoughts, and to carve your own path in a world full of echo chambers, then maybe you're not broken, maybe you're Sigma. So let's break the silence and explore what it truly means to walk alone, not out of rejection, but by deliberate, fearless choice. Number 1, you feel like a ghost in the crowd. You walk through crowded places and still feel untouched, not because you're invisible, but because you're untethered. It's not loneliness that accompanies you, it's liberation. You observe the world, but you're not consumed by it. While others claw for attention, affirmation, and social currency, you remain sovereign, like vapor drifting past the noise. This isn't apathy, it's awareness. You've chosen not to belong because you understand something others haven't realized yet. The world is full of performances. People wear masks, not to deceive maliciously, but to survive. Behind every perfectly filtered smile is an unspoken fear of inadequacy. Behind every loud voice in the room is often a quiet cry for relevance. You see this, you hear it, and because of that, you've made a conscious decision not to get caught in the game. Psychologists might call this trait high self-monitoring with low social dependency. In layman's terms, you're incredibly perceptive but uninterested in fitting in. Research in personality psychology even places people like you in what's known as the introverted intuitive category, individuals who find depth more fulfilling than social stimulation. You're not antisocial, you're just selectively engaged. You prefer meaningful conversations over meaningless chatter, solitude over superficial gatherings, and authenticity over popularity. That makes you rare and misunderstood. The world will tempt you with noise, trends, status, and distractions carefully designed to hijack your attention and manipulate your choices. Algorithms are coded to study your behavior and serve you the next dopamine hit, but you don't bite. Why? Because your center, your internal compass, is too deeply rooted. It isn't rebellion that keeps you out of the crowd, it's clarity. You don't need to be seen to feel real. You don't need approval to feel worthy. You're grounded in something far more durable than fleeting validation. You walk through chaos like a ghost walks through walls, not out of detachment but out of alignment. You move differently because your soul isn't searching for shelter in the noise. It's already found home in silence, and that silence is your power. While the world races, you remain still. While others mimic, you observe. While most are trying to be everything, you're just being authentically, quietly and powerfully. That's not weakness. That's a form of strength few understand. It's not that the world can't touch you. It's that it no longer defines you. Number 2, you crave freedom over belonging. Most people spend their lives searching for belonging, for a tribe to identify with, a group to validate them, or a label to wear with pride. They want connection, applause, and a place in the social architecture that makes them feel safe and seen. But you're wired differently. While others seek tribes, you seek escape. The more you're expected to conform to a role, whether it's the prestigious job title, the curated friend group, or the endless chase for digital applause, the more suffocated you feel. These aren't accomplishments to you, they're chains, no matter how shiny they look. You see, there's a psychological principle known as the innate human response to resist when freedom is threatened. For most, this is a subtle force. For you, it's a roaring instinct. The moment something or someone tries to claim ownership over your time, your thoughts, or your loyalty, your mind immediately begins crafting an exit strategy. You weren't designed to live in cages, especially golden ones that masquerade as success. You value sovereignty more than comfort. This world conditions people to be loyal to systems, to companies, to schools, to governments, and to ideologies. But you answer only to principle, to your own internal compass, not to the latest trend or crowd-pleasing belief. That unnerves people. They're not used to someone who walks away from status, attention, or approval without hesitation. They call it cold. They misunderstand your silence as arrogance and your independence as rebellion. But to you, it's clarity. It's the refusal to betray your values just to be liked. It's knowing that peace is found in solitude, not in performance. You don't want to fit in, you want to breathe. You want truth over comfort, freedom over applause, and depth over noise. The world will keep trying to categorize you, to pin you down, to make you digestible and safe. But you were never meant to be understood in a single glance. You're the outlier, the lone wolf, the one who doesn't need the campfire to feel warm. You navigate life on your own terms, not because you're antisocial, but because your spirit is too expansive for fences. While others lose themselves trying to belong, you find yourself every time you walk away. Number 3, you think more than you speak. Your silence is not emptiness. It's precision, strategic, deliberate, and deeply intentional. While the world clamors for attention, shouts over itself to be noticed, and rushes to fill every moment with noise, you sit quietly in observation. This isn't passive stillness. It's power in its most refined form. You speak only when the words are worth their weight, when they carry purpose, clarity, and impact. Every sentence that leaves your lips is a calculated move, not a careless reaction. In a culture obsessed with oversharing, your restraint becomes your signature. Psychologists have long studied the power of silence in communication. It creates space, commands attention, and often says more than words ever could. Sigma males in particular master this principle. Their silence is never accidental. It's a reflection of inner control, intellectual filtering, and emotional discipline. They don't need to prove themselves through constant chatter. Instead, they observe the patterns others miss. The shift in tone, the flicker of hesitation, the subtle manipulations woven into conversation. These quiet men are human lie detectors with highly tuned emotional intelligence. And when they finally speak, people stop, because they know something meaningful is about to unfold. It's rare, and that's what makes it magnetic. You're not afraid of silence because you understand its strategic value. Silence, for you, is a weapon, a filter, and a mirror all at once. It exposes the insecure and unsettles the manipulative. It protects your thoughts and sharpens your focus. Inside your mind is not a void, it's a fortress layered with calculation, reflection, and mental blueprints that would overwhelm the average thinker. Only a few are ever allowed in, and those who do earn access, they quickly learn that behind your quiet exterior is a symphony of strategy, a relentless current of thought. You're not passive, you're potent, and your silence, it's not the absence of a voice, it's the presence of a mind that refuses to waste words. Number 4, You don't need constant stimulation, you don't fear boredom, you use it. In a world addicted to stimulation, silence has become a stranger to most. The average man escapes it by diving into distractions, doom scrolling on his phone, filling the air with senseless chatter, or chasing temporary highs just to avoid being alone with his own mind. But not you. When the noise dies down, you don't panic. You thrive. You fill the quiet not with chaos, but with clarity. In those still moments, you're not wasting time, you're investing it. You analyze, recalibrate, and design your next move while others are busy avoiding themselves. This is where the Sigma male's true strength begins to emerge. Not in external conquest, but in internal mastery. This isn't just some mysterious persona, it's rooted in real psychological research. Studies in cognitive science show that solitude, especially intentional solitude, increases self-awareness, creativity, and problem-solving ability. In 2017, a study published found that individuals who seek solitude, not from social anxiety but from self-preference, tend to be more emotionally stable and intellectually independent. You don't disappear because you're broken. You disappear because you're building. That absence isn't a cry for attention. It's a return to the workshop of your mind, where chaos gets filtered into purpose. You may go silent for days, turn your phone off, let calls ring out. It's not bitterness, it's a tune-up. While the world thinks you're off-grid, you're actually on target, removing the distractions that dilute your focus. You're studying people, patterns and plans, getting ready, because real power doesn't scream for attention. It sharpens itself in the dark. It grows in the calm. And when you return from that quiet place, you don't come back softer, you come back smarter. You've refined your instincts, elevated your awareness, and armed yourself with insights. Your silence wasn't a retreat, it was a reset. And that's why you come back different, sharper, colder, wiser. Not because you detached from the world, but because you reconnected with yourself. In a society that panics without noise, your peace is your power. You don't just endure boredom, you turn it into a forge. You don't run from silence, you mine it for strength, and that's the difference. That's why you're never truly behind. You're just waiting, watching, plotting. So when the moment strikes, you don't act out of impulse, you strike with precision. That's not just strategy, that's Sigma. Number 5, you keep your circle tight and your boundaries tighter. You don't need many people, just real ones. That's not just a quote for social media, it's a mindset. A survival code for Sigma males and anyone walking the solitary path of authenticity. See, in a world flooded with noise, validation chasing, and fake connections, a Sigma knows his value doesn't come from how many people are in his corner, but who. He builds tight circles, not big ones. And when someone disrespects the boundaries he's set, the response isn't loud or emotional. It's simple, surgical, and immediate. They're gone, no arguments, no second chances, no dramatic speeches. The person just ceases to exist in his reality, ghosted, deleted, replaced by silence. To outsiders, that might feel cold or ruthless. But to the Sigma, it's math, emotional algebra. You give someone space, trust, and presence. If they cross that line, they subtract themselves from your life. That's the equation. No need for revenge, no need for chaos, just access removed. And this isn't some emotional immaturity or toxic pride. It's actually backed by neuroscience. Studies have shown that setting and enforcing boundaries activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, which is associated with decision-making and self-control. It's a sign of emotional intelligence, not emotional instability. Respect and loyalty aren't freebies in the Sigma's world, they're currencies. And like any currency, they lose value if counterfeits start flooding the system. A Sigma male doesn't tolerate fake respect, that empty politeness people throw around when they want something, nor does he entertain loyalty that only lasts while things are convenient. He observes quietly, gives people rope, and watches what they do with it. If they try to tie him up or hang his trust with it, he walks away. No warnings. Because here's the truth. The world is full of people who test boundaries just to see how far they can push. But a Sigma doesn't play that game. He doesn't yell or beg for decency. He simply exits the room, metaphorically or literally. And the silence that follows, that's not weakness, it's power. It's restraint. It's the mark of someone who has mastered the art of self-respect and doesn't hand it over for cheap. In the end, it's not about having crowds, it's about having clarity. The fewer distractions, the stronger the focus, and the Sigma male lives by one timeless principle. If you can't respect the line, you don't deserve the presence. Number 6, you confuse people, especially women. You're unreadable, not on purpose, it's just who you are. One moment you're completely present, intense, sharp. A woman feels the full weight of your focus like a spotlight, and for that moment she's the only thing that matters. But just as quickly, you're gone. Not physically always, but mentally, emotionally, and energetically. No explanation, no drama. You vanish like vapor. And the truth is, it's not some manipulative tactic or calculated power play. It's simply how you protect your energy. You're not designed to be on for everyone. Unlike extroverts who feed off attention or beta males who seek validation, you move through the world like a shadow with intention. You're selective about where you place your focus because you understand that not every interaction deserves your emotional investment. Psychologically, this aligns with what researchers identify as the dismissive avoidant attachment style, a trait often misunderstood but common among highly self-reliant individuals. But for Sigma males, it's not about fear of closeness, it's about conserving power. You don't chase approval or plaster your emotions on your sleeve. You've likely learned through experience that vulnerability must be earned, not handed out like candy. You operate like a cipher, complex, minimalistic, and deeply private. And only those who carry a rare depth of perception can read between your silences and understand your true intentions. This mysterious nature is both a magnet and a maze for women. It disarms them, intrigues them. And yes, sometimes it frustrates them, because most men are predictable. They perform, they showboat, they overshare in hopes of being accepted. But you simply exist, unapologetically, calmly, on your own terms. And that makes you unforgettable. You become the outlier in a world of noise, a quiet force whose absence says more than most men's presence. The fascination with you isn't just emotional, it's neurological. Studies show that unpredictability activates the brain's reward system. The more someone can't quite figure you out, the more addicted they become to trying. In that sense, your detachment becomes the very thing that keeps them coming back. Not for attention, but for understanding, and only a few will ever get close enough to earn it. Number 7, you're quietly building something. While others chase visibility, you chase value. That's the difference between noise and power. In a world obsessed with likes, followers, and being seen, the Sigma male stands apart. Not because he can't be loud, but because he chooses not to be. You don't talk about your grind, you grind. There's no daily update, no need for validation. You study in silence, you work in the shadows. And while the world scrolls endlessly for attention, you sharpen in solitude. This isn't about being antisocial, it's about being intentional. Studies in psychology show that those who work quietly and focus on long-term goals tend to outperform those who constantly seek external recognition. It's a concept known as intrinsic motivation, driven by inner purpose, not public approval. Every move you make is deliberate. There's no randomness here. Like a chess master, you're 10 steps ahead, not because you're flashy, but because you're focused. Your wins? They're quiet, but powerful. Because real success doesn't need to scream. It whispers in the ears of those paying attention and strikes with the weight of momentum. And here's the thing, people won't notice what you're doing, not at first. While they're busy performing for the crowd, you're building something real, something lasting. And then one day the results appear out of nowhere, not because they actually came from nowhere, but because your work was cloaked in silence until the impact became impossible to ignore. It's like thunder on a clear day, unexpected, undeniable, and unforgettable. That's the Sigma way. No need for applause, no thirst for followers, just vision executed with surgical precision. Sigma males embody the psychological principle of self-determination, the ability to set one's own path regardless of social norms or pressure. It's not rebellion for the sake of rebellion, it's self-reliance in its purest form. You don't need the spotlight because your mission burns brighter than any stage light ever could. While the world shouts for attention, you command respect with results. And when your time comes, and it will, it won't be because you begged to be seen. It'll be because you made yourself undeniable. That's not just success, that's dominance, earned in silence and revealed in force. If these 7 traits resonate with your inner rhythm, if solitude empowers you, if small talk drains you, if you're more focused on personal growth than popularity, then you're not broken, lost, or antisocial. You're simply wired differently. You're not a misfit. You're not detached. You're designed for something beyond the ordinary. Society often misunderstands the Sigma male because he doesn't conform to typical social hierarchies. Unlike the Alpha, who commands the spotlight, or the Beta, who follows, the Sigma moves through life on his own terms, independent, self-reliant, and uninterested in fitting in. He thrives in solitude, not because he hates people, but because his mind is constantly turning over ideas, strategies, and inner truths. Psychologists have noted that individuals with high levels of introspection and autonomy often score differently on personality tests like the Big Five, particularly with low extroversion and high openness to experience.